It is 10 o'clock. It is a Taco Tuesday. We are live here on site in Homewood. This is three-man front on Jox Live at Social Taco in Homewood. Come on by and see us. The doors open up at 11 o'clock. We are back to our customary home on Tuesday. Conrad Van Order, Molly Robinson, Landrum will be back with us on Thursday. It was ironic last week, Conrad. You and I were in Atlanta, Georgia, covering the SEC Football Media Days, and we were missing Social Taco, and we had no idea. And we were a rock's throw away from the mess hall where all the media would go in there and get their free water and soft drinks and their lunch and dinner. And unbeknownst to us, it was a Taco Tuesday last Tuesday.
Yeah, it was, and fortunately, I don't think we had any mishaps because Taco Day is always maybe a little bit of a concern at those types of events because you never know the aftermath of it. But yeah, no, it was nice to feel a little slice of home while we were in Atlanta, and obviously had a great week there covering media days. But it's nice to be back at our home away from home. They say, what do they say? Mercedes-Benz is Bryant-Denny East, so we'll call this Jox 94.5 East here on the Taco Terrace at Social Taco.
So come on by and see us. The doors open up at 11 o'clock. I know BB sent us a note yesterday. She will not be attending today, but she did announce on our text line, the Courtesy GMC text line, that it will be Banana Pudding Tuesday.
Next week.
Next week.
Yes, she will not be here today, unfortunately. But yeah, next week a lot of banana pudding. So come hungry next week for sure.
She does wonderful pastries.
They're so good.
She has made us multiple different desserts, cakes, and so now she's dipping her chef's thumb into the banana pudding.
Well, and you can come up here and you can have some wonderful chicken feathers, which are our favorites up here, and you can go right into chicken feathers from that to banana pudding. If that doesn't sound like a wonderful hearty meal on a Tuesday afternoon, I don't know what does.
So customarily on Tuesday, right out of the gate, we have Mike Griffith from the AJCDogNation.com. Mike and I, we were communicating earlier this morning. Mike is actually in Charlotte, North Carolina. He is covering ACC Media Days. So we will talk to Mike on the back end of the program as opposed to the beginning of the program. He's going to join us at 1 o'clock. Coming up at noon, Mike Rodak, who covers the Alabama Crimson Tide, he will join the program. We'll get his thoughts on SEC Media Days last week where Alabama fell to number 3. What does this mean in regards to Alabama not having one single player on the first team all defense? We'll get his take on that. 12:30, Brett Norsworthy, friend of the program, the Southern Gentleman from WHBQ Radio, Ole Miss Radio Network. He will join the program at 12:30. Not only are we going to talk to him about SEC Media Days, our schedules last week. He was our neighbor.
He was right next door.
He was next door to us. On the other side of us was J.D. Pickell.
Mm-hmm.
J.D. was able to be on the program for a few minutes. Brett was the only person from his radio station, so needless to say, he was doing yeoman's work, like on the air all day long, so we just could not work out a time for Brett to be on with us because we knew that we were going to have an opportunity to catch up with Brett later, and today's the day not only about SEC Media Days, but the big story yesterday out of the city that he calls home, and that is Memphis. What is going on with the Memphis Tigers? They sent out a tweet about an hour after all the mess happened yesterday afternoon in which they say that they are a proud member of the American Conference. I got to use saying no athletic conference. So, yeah, it's interesting. So we'll talk to him about SEC stuff and what's going on with Memphis because if they're floating a $200 million test balloon for a conference, you just wonder if somebody else is going to bite or if there's a potential of somebody else.
Well, we know the Pac-12, that was a conference that was, I guess, in the conversation with Memphis for a little while. The Big East, potentially just for basketball, and we talked about that yesterday. Would the American be willing to keep Memphis on excluding basketball, or would they just kind of let them walk? So, yeah, an interesting time for Memphis, but like you said, and I get it because yesterday was when they did the official rebranding from the American Athletic Conference to just the American Conference. But you just have to wonder, was that a scheduled tweet? Or, just how all that played out with, we're a proud member of this conference. By the way, don't pay attention to the fact that we were trying to pay $200 million to get out of this conference an hour ago.
Well, the reason it came out yesterday, and I found this out late yesterday afternoon, but there was a call amongst the Big 12 presidents, and apparently somebody talked after that call yesterday. That's when it came out in regards to Memphis floating that idea of $200 million and coming to the conference. But we'll get into that much later with Brett. We're going to start the program talking about what's going on in Charlotte. We do have ACC Media Days going on. Jim Phillips He met with the media earlier this morning. Coming up at 1 o'clock today from Las Vegas, it will be Big Ten Media Days. And so Ross Dellinger had a story that came out early this morning. He has already sat down with Tony Petitti. And this kind of gives us an idea, Conrad, of what we should expect to hear from Tony Petitti. In this interview with Yahoo, they are digging in. I'm talking about the Big Ten in regards to the format of the potential future of the college football playoff. He says that the CFP selection criteria changes in regards to the strength of schedule and the other things that the SEC wants, that it is incomplete, but the Big Ten remains against a 5+11 format. Petitti emphasized that his league's position on a future playoff format remains unchanged, a position he told Yahoo that is unlikely to change until the power conferences agree to play the same amount of conference games, which would be 9, and until that selection process is rectified in regards to the strength of schedule, the Big Ten's not moving.
So essentially, he's doubling down in the exact opposite way that Brett Yormark doubled down a week ago at Big 12 Media Days. Something's going to have to give here, right, at some point, whether that is the SEC ultimately giving in and going to that 9th conference game, and maybe that really will settle it all. But it is just, again, it's fascinating to see how all of this goes, because it seems like all of the, I guess, biggest talking points in college football, being the college football playoff and scheduling, they're all intertwined, right? Until one thing gets resolved, another thing isn't going to get resolved. And so we just kind of have these two conferences butting heads right now. And we heard from Greg Sankey last week when he was talking with Paul. And, you know, they have a great relationship, the SEC and the Big Ten. Him and Tony Petitti talk multiple times a week. And so hopefully that they are able to come to an agreement sometime soon. But, I mean, no surprise. We got the report last week when we were in Atlanta that essentially the Big Ten is, nope, this is what we're going to do. And if you're not willing to budge on the conference games, and we're not going to be willing to budge on the college football playoff, then that's that.
Direct quote from Petitti in this article with Yahoo. He says, "It's not that we think the selection committee does a poor job. I'm just not sure how you make it better. The more teams you add, the more tough decisions you create. We're going to give the committee more to do? What's the reason to do that? Giving them more work to do and more discretion? Question mark."
Can someone just come out and say, hey, we think the college football committee gets it wrong every year, and we don't want to lean on them to get our representation into the college football playoff? I understand that you probably can't come out and say that, but that's what we're all thinking, right? That's secretly. I'm not saying they do a bad job. Well, by saying that and clarifying that, you're insinuating that they're doing a bad job. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to clarify it. So I understand we have to be cordial and we have to be polite, but can we just let the cat out of the bag and everyone raise their hand? Hey, this is the problem. If we believed that the playoff committee valued strength of schedule over everything else, this probably wouldn't be an issue. But we know based on the last 11 years of evidence that that's not the biggest factor for them. And I just wish someone would come out and call a spade in this one.
So Tony Petitti, when he did the interview with Joe Klatt a couple weeks ago, he was basically saying, we complain now about a 4-team playoff before we went to 12. We complained about the selection committee. Now we went to 12. We continue to have the same comments about the selection committee. So why would we want to add more on the plate to a committee that we don't believe does a good enough job for college football? So that's his angle. That interview that he gave with Ross Dellinger, that is the canary in the coal mine in regards to the test. Then today he will absolutely deliver the same type of comments.
Yeah.
This was kind of an early shot across the bow. So Tony Petitti, in his very svelte way, will get that point across that the Big Ten is perfectly happy with their automatic qualifying idea and against a 5-11 format, as long as the SEC and the ACC remain at 8 conference games. Speaking of the ACC, Jim Phillips, the former athletics director at Northwestern University, he has been the commissioner of the Atlantic Coast Conference now. I think this is his 5th year, if I'm not mistaken. He was at the podium in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he, in his opening remarks, had this to say about the college football playoff discussion.
Conversations regarding the CFP structure beyond the upcoming year are ongoing, and I sincerely appreciate the collaborative spirit in which we are moving forward. We may not always agree, and at certain points we have had some strong disagreements. but we all recognize the importance of coming together to find a solution that is truly best for all of college football. Fairness and access are paramount, just as they are in all other college sports postseasons.
I will say this, and I know people that are personal friends of Jim Phillips, and they just glow about him as an individual. But as a public speaker, if I had him in college, I would already be taking a nap.
Yeah.
This guy has absolutely zero charisma. And obviously he gets into that wine and cheese crowd in the ACC with those presidents and chancellors, and he fits right in. He's reading off a teleprompter. There's just no juice whatsoever. It's interesting because Brett Yormark, I mean, he comes out with his hair on fire.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He is as personable as they come when it comes to conference commission. You understand why he was named the Big 12 commissioner.
No doubt about it. Effervescent personality.
Yep.
Greg Sankey controls the room. He's one of the best public speakers you're going to find anywhere. But, man, Jim Phillips, just the message, just continuing to read off the teleprompter was not good. But anyway, he was getting his points across. He then took questions from the audience. And this was the question that was asked him in regards to access to the CFP, which is paramount in his position as the commissioner of the ACC, that the conference champions, that's the most important thing to access to the new CFP.
I've always believed in rewarding conference champions. And if you're in a really good conference, I think like we have across the P4, and you're also part of the G6, conference championships matter, and that's been consistent in my 5 years, that they should be rewarded. Fairness and access should also be part of the equation. And so we have a really good playoff right now. It's the 5-7 model. I'm open to 5-9 and 5-11. I always look to our championships to try to have as much access as possible within reason. It has to make sense. I think 5-7 allows about 9% of those that play college football at the FBS level a chance to get into the playoff. And it goes up about 1.5%. So I think you get to nearly 12% if you go to a 5-11 model. I know that there's questions about selection and selection committee. I have great faith and confidence in those committee members. I've served on the men's basketball selection, women's basketball selection committees. I know how difficult that is. These are honorable, honest individuals with great integrity. I do like that we're reviewing the protocol for selection, and I think that will help. But I want to stay committed to access and fairness to all of college football, not only the ACC, and protect our AQ. So I look forward to our ongoing conversations, and I understand why other leagues feel differently about positioning of the future format. So we'll look forward to some of those ongoing conversations.
So whether it was that answer or just basically his speech this morning leading into ACC Media Days, you can tell of the four people that are in a room, Jim Phillips is probably the one that you would probably consider Switzerland. He seems like he's the guy that is willing to go to a hothead like Brett Yormark and maybe someone like a Greg Sankey and kind of act as a bridge between all these different groups that have these different chasms in regards to what they believe what the CFP looks like moving forward.
Well, and is there any surprise that he's complimentary of the committee after last year and getting SMU in and helping him out and understanding, I mean, we should have probably only had one team in last year, but really appreciate you throwing that second team in there for us. So, I'm not surprised at all that he's going to talk like that. But I agree. I think of the four power commissioners, he would definitely be the most neutral about all of it. But I think he also, he has to have the self-awareness to understand that he carries, I guess, the least amount of weight in the room in terms of the power that the ACC brings compared to even the Big 12. So it's not a surprising stance, but it's not surprising at all to hear him, the committee works with integrity and they're a great group of people and we really, really are proud of the work that they put in. Well, of course you are, because it benefited you last year even when it shouldn't have.
Finally, he was asked a question about the situation going on between the Big Ten, the SEC, the open dialogue in regards to the Big Ten trying to force its hand and tell the SEC they need to play 9 conference games. Well, If you look at a conference schedule, the ACC still plays 8 conference games just like the Southeastern Conference. So he was asked the following question: has the ACC considered moving to a 9-game conference schedule?
We have discussed 9. We've discussed 9 several times in my 5 years as commissioner. The group has always felt that at the end of the day, those non-conference games have really been good for the league, and we have really scheduled well. So it isn't as if our league has just kind of looked aside about strength of schedule. They have. If you go to 9, if the SEC ends up going to 9 and maybe we end up going to 9, I think there's a few challenges. Those rivalry games that we really enjoy, I think that the fans really enjoy, I think some of those go away. And it now focuses more on everybody's conference schedule than it is a mix of conference schedule and non-conference. Also, I think it's a challenge for us with an odd number of schools at 17 and how you exactly work that out. So that in itself, there's some difficulty there. And I continue to talk to Greg, and I talk to Tony and Brett all the time. I mean, we have frequent conversations. So, I mean, no one's kind of moving in a vacuum on this. We're exchanging, thoughts there, and we'll see. At the end of the day, I like where our league is. I like where we're at in 8 games, because we're playing the type of caliber that I described, 26 really good non-conference games. But we'll adjust if we have to, and I think all of this remains a work in progress.
That was ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips on the potential of his conference moving to 9 games. The Big Ten would love to see everyone at 9 conference games. So we'll see if the SEC and the ACC will acquiesce in regards to that moving forward. So we got a lot to get into today. We will continue to follow what's going on in Charlotte, North Carolina. Las Vegas is going to be the other big-time college football topic this afternoon as the Big Ten takes the stage in Sin City. We'll also get into some quarterback questions. More debate on the best quarterbacks in the SEC, where a local radio host in Orlando, Florida, took the SEC media poll to task. Man, it was Matt Moscona on Friday. Mike Bianchi from the Orlando Sentinel and an Orlando radio station does the same thing yesterday. We'll get into that. We'll take your text, your phone calls. Hopefully we'll see you here at Social Taco when the doors open up at 11 o'clock. A very busy Tuesday. This is Jox, 3-Man Front. We're back live at Social Taco in Homewood. Stop on by and see us. Conrad's already put his order in for the brand new chicken feathers.
That's right.
The chicken feathers originally, they were fantastic, but they kind of adjusted it. They did some things.
They're meatier,
and
I guess.
The seasoning is just tremendous. So,
and we got a suggestion now that you can, I guess, order them with some sort of taco dipping sauce that apparently makes them even better. So very excited.
Yep. So as always, best chips and salsa you're going to find here in the Birmingham metropolitan area. But come on by and see us. We're located on the second floor of the Taco Terrace. I mentioned yesterday we had a great conversation about the SEC media poll that came out on Friday. Over 1,200 members of the media had an opportunity to vote, and all indications are around 204 ended up taking advantage of that opportunity. And the number one player that was listed at the quarterback position was Lenoris Sellers of South Carolina. At number two was Garrett Nussmeier, which that kind of raised the ire of those in the state of Louisiana. How Lenoris Sellers would be ahead of Garrett Nussmeier based on the production.
Why
from
do these
last
people
year.
have ballots?
Right.
Oh, by the way, we didn't even vote for our own quarterback.
Yeah. And then coming in at number three was Arch Manning, who a lot of
Not
people,
a big, yeah.
a lot of people believed
shock
he would be like number one on the list. Well, one of the quarterbacks that didn't even make the first, second, or third team was DJ Lagway in Gainesville, Florida. And now that's got a lot of people in the state of Florida upset. The number one sports talk show in Orlando, hosted by Mike Bianchi, a longtime columnist with the Orlando Sentinel, he went on social media yesterday. Take a listen to what he has to say about the ACC Media Days poll.
Are you kidding me? Gators quarterback DJ Lagway doesn't make any of the All-SEC preseason football teams voted by the media. Not first team All-SEC, not second team, not third team. He finishes behind South Carolina quarterback Lenoris Sellers, LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier, and get this, Arch Manning of Texas, who barely played last year, DJ Lagway, who was 6-0 in games he started and finished, second in the SEC in passer rating. This isn't just a snub of DJ Lagway. This is the snub of the Gator program because they've been mostly irrelevant for the last 15 years. Let's face it, if DJ Lagway quarterback Georgia or Alabama or if his last name was Manning, he would be first team All-SEC. This is a joke.
Wow. The hits keep coming.
Let me just put my hand up. I voted DJ Lagway first team All-SEC.
I did.
So he, I'm glad to know that me and
So
Bianchi
you're one of
would
the 204 that voted for him.
Apparently, I'm one of the. That must have been the two that voted for him, based on his lack of inclusion on the rankings there. But
he said this is a joke. He said, "Why do we do this?"
And again, you're going to say that it's your guy, right? It's your school that you cover on your radio program.
By the way,
sense.
I think he graduated from the University of Florida.
Oh, shocker! I would have never guessed that. But no, I mean, I think, look, the talent that you have in the SEC, I think you have fair question marks around everybody. I think it's fair to say DJ Lagway is a guy who for me, the reason I voted him first is because what I saw from him last year when he was on the field, he made throws and he made plays as a true freshman that I didn't see anybody else in the SEC make. And I think that going into this year, if you're able to take the step up from that, there's no doubt in my mind that he's in the conversation as the best quarterback in the SEC. I think Garrett Nussmeier turns the ball over a little too much, and that's ultimately why I had DJ Lagway 1, and then I did have Garrett Nussmeier 2nd. But I think it's also fair to say this is a guy that really wasn't able to throw a lot of the offseason because he's been dealing with the shoulder problem, and we didn't see him in spring. We haven't really heard a lot about him in the offseason because of that.
So it's out of sight, out of mind?
I
You think that's what it is?
I think that's a lot of it. But let's be honest. Garrett Nussmeier is an incredible quarterback, right? Threw for over 4,000 yards last year, almost 30 touchdown passes. He's great. And I think we all know what an LSU offense is capable of doing for a quarterback. We've seen that recently. I think Lenoris Sellers, you got a full season of him, right? And I think that's for a lot of people is you got a full season of Lenoris Sellers, whereas you only got about half of DJ Lagway. And then, as we all know, a lot of people think Arch Manning is going to be the greatest quarterback since Tim Tebow. So, just saying, I think Paul said that. But Um, uh, you're splitting hairs with these guys, right? And I wouldn't be shocked to find out that DJ Lagway was fourth.
Are you splitting hairs with the quarterback situation in the SEC like we are the top 4 teams that we believe right now are the top 4 teams?
Yeah, I think so. I think they all have qualities. Some of them are younger guys that you're banking on taking that next step. Some of them, like maybe Nussmeier, a little more of a known commodity, but you're banking on him not throwing as many interceptions. So I don't have a problem with any of those 4 guys getting recognition. I think they are clearly the top 4 in the conference. And, unfortunately in this situation, DJ Lagway, someone has to be the odd man out, and it's Lagway.
Molly, today's poll question, we're asking the audience of Three Man Front in regards to the top quarterbacks in the SEC and what their impressions are of them statistically for the rest of the year.
Yeah, so we gave you 4 options. We gave you John Mateer, Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, or Lenore Sellers. And right now winning with 39% of our voters saying Garrett Nussmeier, about 27% saying Arch Manning, 25% with Lenore Sellers, and then only 9% saying Mateer.
Yeah, so we asked the question, which of these SEC quarterbacks will finish the season with a better year? And that is open to, obviously, definition of what you would consider the best year.
Well, and the funny thing with that conversation, too, is if we're looking at, if we were just going strictly off of last year, now I understand he played against a much different level of competition. Statistically speaking, John Mateer is the most impressive quarterback returning in the SEC this year. Granted, I think it's fair to have questions of how is that going to translate to Oklahoma on top of, let's be honest, the Oklahoma offense last year left a lot to be desired. So it's a very interesting conversation, and I think you can't really go wrong with any of those guys. There's a lot of question marks, certainly, to go around, but I think top to bottom, the quarterback rooms that you have in the SEC, I think I'd stack that up against any conference there is out there. There's just a lot that we're, still waiting to see, but I think we're confident that, the Arch Mannings of the world will impress. I think we're confident that the Jackson Arnolds and Ty Simpsons of the world are also probably going to be a little better than maybe they're getting credit for right now. We'll just have to wait and see.
The other thing that I'll mention about John Mateer that I realized last week, we all know about his offensive coordinator coming to Norman, Oklahoma.
Yes.
But also his quarterback's coach.
That helps.
Came as well. So it's not just his OC, but his QB coach is very familiar with what they're going to try to run. You still got to have the Jimmies and Joes.
Absolutely.
To be successful. Got to have an offensive line. But John Mateer, I think he's the one of the 4. I'm not saying he's going to have the best numbers of the 4, but I think a lot of people might be sleeping on him in regards to what he potentially could do for Oklahoma.
Absolutely, yeah. Me and Damian have talked a lot about Oklahoma and John Mateer on Morning Jox over the last month or so because we're both pretty high on what they can do this year, even with the very difficult schedule. But I think, yeah, if there's a quarterback that you're like, man, that John Mateer guy, I don't really know what he's all about, go watch some film from last year. Go watch some highlights from Washington State. That's a dude that can throw it and run with the best of them and is a true dual threat guy. And I think a significant upgrade for Oklahoma offensively over what they had last year. And that includes the fact that, you were down your top 6 receivers. That's going to be hard for anybody.
When we come back on Three Man Front, The Athletic has put out a piece in regards to where they rank every single FBS quarterback that is expected to be the starting quarterback.
It's a lot.
And they put them in 7 tiers. Obviously, Tier 1 is the best of the best, and Tier 7 would probably be like me and Conrad if we lined up to take the snap. That's how bad it would be. But anyway, we will get into that list and where Jackson Arnold and Ty Simpson, the presumed starters for Alabama and Auburn, where do they fall on this list? It's going to surprise you in regards to who the Athletic believes is the best quarterbacks, not only in the country but in the SEC. We'll get into that next. Take your calls, your texts as well. 205-834-9450 on the text line. This is Jox, Three Man Front. 10:34. Welcome back. This is Jox, three-man front live from Social Taco in Homewood. Lance will be back with us on Thursday. Me and Conrad, we are here live in Homewood. Molly will join us back here on site next week. Auburn gets a big commitment yesterday. Four-star linebacker Jaquez Wilkes from Wadley, Alabama. When we told everybody yesterday what was going to happen,
Yep.
The hybrid defender announced his decision yesterday at 4 o'clock. Alabama, Florida State, Miami, and Texas A&M, they were the other finalists. 6'4", 220, plays at 1A Wadley High School. And because of that commitment, Auburn now has 11 on the board. They jumped 10 spots in the 247 composite rankings. They went from 75th to 65th. So
That's pretty impressive. But yeah, I mean, he's the highest ranked recruit now in Auburn's 2026 class, and certainly it doesn't hurt when you can, kind of puff out your chest a little bit at the Alabama fans and say, hey, this is a guy that y'all were going after, and he chose the Auburn Tigers over Alabama, as well as A&M and Miami, I believe, were the other schools that were in it. But this was cool too, and we see this a lot, right? The guys that are, let's be honest, just a little more talented than everyone else at the high school level, and they kind of get used all around the field. And we were talking about this morning, so Wadley played Maplesville, Damien's alma mater, in the state championship game last year. And so this is a four-star linebacker, but in the state championship last year, he had 38 carries for 312 yards and 5 touchdowns in the state title game last year. So Auburn is getting a heck of an athlete, no doubt about it, and certainly start of maybe a positive trend on the recruiting trail.
Well, the Alabama heat and humidity can be brutal, but don't let it affect your home and family. Keep them comfortable with an affordable Trane cooling system. They've been recognized as America's most trusted brand for 11 consecutive years, and they're the official cooling partner here at Jox. So go and find a comfort specialist near you at Trane.com.
all right, so the Athletic, they went and ranked the projected starters for all 136 quarterbacks in the FBS. They listed them under 7 tiers. Tier 1, the most talented quarterbacks in the country. Tier 2, winners who have proven their mettle. They can carry the team but have limitations when it comes to certain traits. Tier 3, most teams would be happy with a quarterback of this caliber. Tier 4, some are young, unproven starters with high potential. Tier 5, you've probably seen these quarterbacks before. Many have played well in college but haven't put it all together consistently, probably transferred around a good bit. Tier 6, these quarterbacks have a lot of question marks. Tier 7, see Conrad Van Order's athletic prowess. That's what the Athletic said.
Is that exactly what
That's
it says?
exactly. I'm quoting directly. Largely unproven group with some decent G5 returning starters. So that gives you an idea of how they were coming up with the criteria of basing this from Tier 1 to Tier 7. The number one quarterback, according to the Athletic, it was not Arch Manning. It was not Garrett Nussmeier.
Oh, it was DJ Lagway.
It wasn't DJ Lagway. It wasn't Drew Aller. It wasn't Josh Hoover at TCU.
Have you said Klubnik?
It is Cade Klubnik.
As it should be.
The number one quarterback, according to the Athletic, is Cade Klubnik. Coming in at number 2, and the number one quarterback in the Southeastern Conference,
Oh, DJ Lagway.
Garrett Nussmeier, who was second team preseason
That's
SEC.
That's right.
Coming in at number 3, and this is nationwide, according to the Athletic, is Lenore Sellers. John Mateer from Oklahoma
We've been telling you.
comes in at number 4. Okay, so Arch Manning's got to be 5, right?
Sure.
I mean, because you've already listed 3 other SEC quarterbacks.
Obviously.
There's no way that the first family of Southeastern Conference football, that a Manning would not be the 5th ranked quarterback in all of college football, right?
Of course, Pat. He's got to be number 5.
No, that would be DJ Lagway.
Oh, there we go.
At number 6 is Drew Aller from Penn State. Sam Levitt is number 7.
Okay.
Now, these are all Tier 1. There's 10 Tier 1 quarterbacks, according to the Athletic.
And I guess
the very
you would,
best of the best.
And you would look at these as probably your Heisman hopefuls.
Yes, that will be in that conversation,
Yes.
without a doubt. At number 8, Kevin Jennings from SMU, that your school, Alabama, tried to pilfer.
That's right, yeah.
Some news
Supposedly.
reports, supposedly they approached him about transferring to Alabama. Josh Hoover from TCU, another individual that was mentioned at other schools.
Tennessee was trying to go after him. Yeah.
Was trying to get him. And coming in as the final quarterback of the Tier 1, which is the best of the best when it comes to quarterbacks in the FBS, Arch Manning.
See, I like to think that they submitted this article and Arch was the first in Tier 2 because, let's be honest, you don't have a whole lot of sample size to work with. And then the editor said, no, we're not going to be those people that put Arch Manning outside of the top tier. So kind of funny that he gets a I don't know if I want to call it a courtesy ranking, but he gets put in the very back of Tier 1.
All right, so if you're keeping score at home, according to The Athletic, the Tier 1 quarterbacks in the SEC, there would be 5 of them, and it's ranked as Nussmeier, Sellers, Mateer, Lagway, and Arch Manning. That's your top 5. So 5
Solid.
of the 10 come from the Southeastern Conference. Okay, so we move on to Tier 2. Again, winners who have proven their mettle, they can carry the team, but have limitations when it comes to certain traits or question marks about their consistency. How many SEC quarterbacks, and by the way, according to The Athletic, only 11 through 16 are considered Tier 2. So the question is, how many SEC quarterbacks, we've already named 5, how many do you think fits that criteria to be a Tier 2 quarterback in college football?
Oh, well, let's see. Well, you're going to have Taylon Green in there, right? Because he's the 4th best quarterback in the SEC.
According to SEC Mike.
According to some.
All right, so you say Taylon Green.
I'm going to say 2 of the next 6.
2
are
of the
SEC.
next 6. How about you, Molly?
I'm
what
going
do
to
you
go
think?
1.
1? Do you have a guess on who that 1 would be?
Maybe Talon or like Diego Pavia.
Okay.
Ooh. Okay.
According to The Athletic, coming in at number 11 is Sawyer Robinson from Baylor. So Auburn will see him first game of the season.
He's a good player.
Carson Beck from Miami at 12. Luke Altmaier, another former SEC quarterback. He's at 13. Rocco Becht from Iowa State comes in at number 14. And we get an SEC quarterback at number 15. Is it Taylon Green? Is it Diego Pavia? According to this publication, it is Diego Pavia.
I like that.
Don't sleep on the doors.
I like that. That was a good call, Molly. I like that.
And then another former SEC quarterback comes in at number 16, Haynes King from Georgia Tech. So only one SEC quarterback making the Tier 2 system from 11 through 16, and that's Diego Pavia.
And 3 former SEC.
And 3 former SEC quarterbacks.
Hey, good for Diego. I like that. I think that's a very good spot for him.
So you put him ahead of Taylon Green?
Ooh. I think Taylon Green's obviously more naturally talented than Diego Pavia, but he's not as consistent.
Tier 3. There are 2 SEC quarterbacks listed.
Okay, well, one of them's got to be Taylon Green.
I think so, too.
I will give you that. Taylon Green is one of the 2 SEC quarterbacks in the Tier 3 system. Who's the other one? Is it Ty Simpson? Is it Jackson Arnold, former 5-star quarterback?
I think Ty Simpson's going to be pretty low.
Austin Simmons?
If we're going based on Austin Simmons would probably be the next one on my list, just going down after Taylon Green.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'll go Taylon Green and Austin Simmons.
All right. Molly?
I'm going to guess Talon and Jackson Arnold.
Okay.
All right. According to The Athletic, number 17, who's the first player in the Tier 3, Fernando Mendoza, former California quarterback.
Auburn fans remember him.
Yep,
yes.
now at Indiana. Darian Mensah from Duke.
Yeah, the $4 million QB.
Nico Iamaleava, UCLA at number 19.
I feel like he might be lower on this list at the end of the year.
Brendan Sorsby from Cincinnati at 20. Taylon Green at 21.
There we go.
Taylon Green is listed as the 21st best quarterback in college football. He is the 7th best in the Southeastern Conference.
Okay.
Avery Johnson from Kansas State, another quarterback that Tennessee was potentially flirting with after Nico left.
Yep, great hair.
Maddox Madsen from Boise at 23. Dante Moore of Oregon at 24. Devin Dampier from Utah at 25.
Oh, he's so good. If you didn't watch Western Kentucky or New Mexico when he was there, he's incredible.
Next SEC quarterback at number 26 is Marcel Reed. So it was not Jackson Arnold that Molly predicted, and you predicted Austin Simmons.
Okay.
So the 2 SEC quarterbacks in the Tier 3 is Taylon Green and Marcel Reed.
Okay, that's a little bit of a surprise.
We are now moving to Tier 4, according to The Athletic, which is some are young, unproven starters. They have high potential. Others are veterans who have flashed great talent, but hit performance or injury speed bumps somewhere along the way.
Okay, so this is where we're going to get the – yeah, we're getting the Alabama and Auburn guys here. We have to.
Coming in at number 35 on the list of the best quarterbacks, and the 9th best quarterback in the SEC is Jackson Arnold from Auburn.
Okay, I like that. And it makes sense that he would be higher than some of the other guys on this list because I understand he left a little bit to be desired last year, but we have actually gotten to see more of him, and we kind of know what you're going to get with Jackson Arnold. So, yeah, I like that.
Okay. The next SEC 2 spots behind Jackson Arnold is Austin Simmons.
Okay. I would probably flip those two personally.
Bo Pribula at Mizzou
That's shocking.
is right after Austin Simmons. He's the 11th best quarterback. And by the way, Molly, just for the point of reference, Dylan Raiola comes in at number 40. He is considered a Tier 4 quarterback.
Let's go. I'll take
at
it.
Nebraska. All right. Ty Simpson is listed as the 12th best quarterback in the Southeastern Conference and the 47th best quarterback in all of college football.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
One spot ahead of Gunnar Stockton at 13th best in the conference, 48th overall.
and that makes sense because I think, for me personally, I kind of viewed them similarly. I understand they're different style of quarterbacks, but I think we all agree the ceiling for not only their talent but what's around them is very, very high, but we just haven't seen a whole lot of it. So I don't have a problem with Ty Simpson being down there that low. I am shocked that they put Pribula up there as high as they did, especially with Drinkwitz making it known that they were having an open quarterback competition. But, yeah, I mean, that's probably where Ty Simpson deserves to be. But then it just goes back to that's where, stuff like the Arch Manning, it's, okay, so why are we giving this guy all the credit after he started against ULM and Mississippi State, and we're going to knock guys that it just seems like there's a little bit of a
Blake Shapen
disagreement there.
barely makes the Tier 4 list at number 58. Tier 5, the final 2 presumed SEC starting quarterbacks. Joey Aguilar comes in at number 60, part of the Tier 5. And then the last ranked SEC, I'm not going to say he's the worst, but he's the last ranked SEC presumed starter is Zach Calzada, former Auburn great, at 63.
Who's right after Calzada?
That would be Tommy Castellanos, the starting quarterback for Florida State.
Okay.
The guy that tore up the ACC in Boston College that nobody could stop.
So let me make sure I have this correct. So based on what The Athletic is telling us here, Tommy Castellanos, if he was in the SEC, would be the worst quarterback in the SEC.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, just making sure
that is accurate.
Okay.
We'd love to hear from you about this list. Is Jackson Arnold and Ty Simpson, is that warranted for them to be Tier 4 quarterbacks, according to The Athletic? 1-800-239-WJOX is the phone number, 205-834-9450 on the text line. This is Three Man Front. We're live from Social Taco. 10:51. Where is your quarterback ranked according to the Athletic? Tier 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Only one SEC quarterback was considered a Tier 5 quarterback. Both Jackson Arnold and that of Ty Simpson comes in as fourth-tier quarterbacks. Does that concern you, Conrad, with your Alabama Crimson Tide's offense this year?
No. I don't think Ty Simpson, he's going to have to prove it, right? And I understand I think it's a valid concern if you have it of, okay, well, if this guy's so good, then why did he not see the field at any point last year? If that's your mindset, I can't really argue back against that. So it's just going to have to be a wait and see. But I have, stayed true with this statement all off season. And again, these are good quarterbacks I'm about to name. But, if you're looking at Ty Simpson, I think you need a Jake Coker caliber quarterback. You don't necessarily need a Bryce Young or a Tua. Now, would you take that? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But I think with all the talent around Ty Simpson, if he just doesn't turn the ball over like Jalen does and make some of the stupid decisions that he made last year, I think he's going to be perfectly fine, and we will be talking about Ty Simpson, not necessarily as maybe one of the 3 or 4 best in the SEC, but certainly in the upper half of the conference when all is said and done.
Do you and Molly, y'all have any problems with Cade Klubnik being number 1 according to the Athletic?
No, he's, in my opinion, easily the best
Yeah, I
quarterback.
don't either.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
I agree with you guys.
He took such a massive jump last year because I kind of viewed him like Drew Aller going into last year, where it's like, man, we've heard so much about him, and then he finally hit it last year. So,
all right, let's go to the text line brought to you by Courtesy GMC and Trustful, 205-834-9450.
And a lot of you chiming in with some comparisons for Ty Simpson as well as some of your other thoughts on the tier list. So this text rolls in. Someone saying, I think Ty Simpson is going to be almost exactly like Mac Jones.
Okay.
If that's what you're getting out of Ty Simpson this year, then I think,
it's going to be a good year for Alabama.
You're looking at a deep playoff run based on what Mac Jones was able to do his 1 year as a starter. Someone else chimes in, Warrior. They say Diego Pavia and Haynes King need their own category.
Is that a good thing?
I would put them both in like I don't know. They deserve like a tough as nails category, right? Like they're not the most physically impressive quarterbacks. They're not the most naturally gifted. But you need a first down, and you want somebody to put their shoulder down and get you 3 yards. I'm going to take those two guys over just about anybody else.
Yeah. So Diego Pavia came in at 15th best quarterback, and Haynes King 16th best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very
similar.
Very impressive jump from both of them last year. Randy chimes in. Ty Simpson will finish in the top 25 quarterbacks by the end of the year easily. And again, that's kind of where I'm at, where if you're a top 30, top 25 quarterback in college football, that's probably all you need if you're Alabama, certainly to get back to the playoff, but potentially even do something once you get into the postseason. Someone else chiming in, they say, this is all fine by me. Nobody talked about Mac Jones leading into 2020 either, and then he absolutely tore it up.
And let's not forget about Jake Coker as well. And Jake Coker wasn't even the starting quarterback for the first, 2, 3, 4 games of the season before he finally took over the Alabama offense.
The Cooper Bateman experiment. How fun that was. Somebody corrects me. Okay. That person was saying the Warrior category. That's what he would name.
Oh, gotcha.
Diego Pavia and Haynes King. Let's see. Brandon chimes in. If FSU's quarterback was at Alabama, LSU, Georgia, etc., he wouldn't be ranked behind all of these other SEC QBs. That's laughable. We'll see.
Yeah.
September or August 31st.
Yep. We will continue to have this discussion. Our first guest is not until 12 noon, so we've got plenty of time to hear from you. 1-800-239-WJOX, courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450. Molly, Conrad, Pat with you on this hot, steamy Tuesday. This is Three Man Front. We begin hour number 2 live at Social Taco. Great crowd already assembled here on the Taco Terrace. Matthew, Corey, Gringo, PG, all in attendance. We always appreciate the fine listeners. Took last week off because we're over in Atlanta, Georgia, but missed everyone, so it's nice to see the folks showing up here at Social Taco. Come on by and see us. And I know we are awaiting our chicken feathers.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be delivered here momentarily, but the lineup and the cuisine here is just outstanding. If you've never been here, it is the best Mexican cuisine you're going to find in Metro Birmingham. So come on by and see us. We'll be here until 2 o'clock. We are taking your calls at 1-800-239-WJOX, 205-834-9450 on the Courtesy GMC text line. We've been talking about this article that came out by The Athletic in which they ranked every single one of the presumed 136 quarterbacks in the FBS, and they listed them in 7 different tiers. And Alabama and Auburn's quarterback, Jackson Arnold, came in as the 35th best quarterback in college football, the 9th best in the conference. Ty Simpson was the 47th best quarterback, the 12th best in the SEC. So we'd love to hear your input on that, and I know the text line continues to bustle with activity, Conrad, as folks are chiming in. Not only about that, but earlier this morning, Jim Phillips, he basically said that he is open to ideas about the college football playoff, but he is a firm believer on access to the conference champions, so he is leaning more towards the 5-9 or the 5-11 format.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because we have Collins from Pell City who texted in on the Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450, and he, when we were talking about the Jim Phillips thing, he just sent in a GIF from the movie Step Brothers. If you remember the scene where Rob Riggle is talking to Will Ferrell, and he's like, "You just have a very punchable face." And he says that's all he can think of whenever he hears Jim Phillips talking about the college football playoff and conference schedules and things like that. He also added Jake Coker started every game in 2015 except for the Ole Miss game, which was quickly rectified. Well, ultimately they lost that game. But, yes, that was the Cooper Bateman game where it really just never made sense to me why he was the first quarterback out on the field that Saturday, but it ultimately ended up being okay because Alabama won a national championship with Jake Coker under center.
I mean, that is something for future generations to go back and you look at the history of Alabama football and say that you won a national championship with Jake Coker and Mac Jones as quarterback.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so Drake chimes in. He says, what a lot of people are forgetting about DJ Lagway is that last year he was playing hurt. Just imagine what he can do when he's healthy. And that is a fair point because we talked about maybe the reason that he's flying a little under the radar this offseason is just kind of out of sight, out of mind, because he has been dealing with, I believe it was that shoulder injury where he couldn't throw for a long time. And, yeah, that certainly would, if he's healthy this year.
But don't you think with all these fan bases, whether you're an Auburn fan, an Alabama fan, or heck, even an Arch Manning, if you see this type of list, I mean, that's a good motivation.
Absolutely.
For you and your team. And DJ Lagway, it was just like we heard that clip from Mike Bianchi in Orlando talking about what a joke it was that he didn't even make one of the top 3 SEC preseason teams at the quarterback position. But that's just motivation.
You are absolutely right, Pat. Another text comes in. What time has Alabama ever won a national championship with a star-studded QB? You can't really say the 2 a year because he was the backup the whole season and came in at halftime of the Natty. That's a fair point, right? You know, you felt you got obliterated by Clemson with Tua the next year, or 2 years later. And then you had Bryce Young, obviously, coming up a little short against Georgia a few years ago. So that's a fair point.
That is a really good point because you think back to 1992, Jay Barker, he was not a Heisman Trophy finalist like he was in 1994 for Alabama. In 1992, I believe he threw for under 100 yards against Miami. And then you had Greg McElroy in the Texas game. Didn't break 300 yards passing.
I think the best argument you might have is A.J. McCarron, his, I guess, final season, or it would have been, well, no, because that was the year you lost the Kick Six because he won the Maxwell Award that year, and it was kind of, it felt maybe a little bit like a career achievement award because that's when Jameis won the Heisman. But, no, absolutely a great point there. Mac Jones, he was in the Heisman conversation, but obviously didn't win it in 2020.
McCarron's year that they just absolutely just killed Notre Dame for the national
2012,
championship.
yeah.
He had a great season that year.
Yeah, no, he was great that year. Let's see. Somebody chiming in. It says Phil Savage has gone into great detail about Jake Coker's situation. It says, according to reports, him and Coach Saban had an argument about him not being named the starter, which is what led Saban to start Bateman over Jake Coker after that argument.
Interesting.
I had not heard that story before. Will chimes in. He says, you were saying Pavia is not a talented quarterback, but he's a football player. He can throw a football, but so can a shortstop. Pavia, like Johnny Manziel, is just a football player. Sometimes you just got to be a football player. And I absolutely agree. I didn't mean that as a slight in the least when I said that there's other guys that are more talented than him. I would also say I think Johnny Manziel was maybe a little more naturally gifted than what Diego Pavia has. But Diego Pavia, he's a gamer. Like that is straight up the way that you would describe him. He is a no-nonsense guy that he knows how to lead a football team on the field, right? He's not the biggest guy. He's not the strongest guy. But when you need somebody to go and make a play for you, Diego Pavia is going to be very high on that list.
Well, it's interesting because he finished 9th in rushing in the SEC last year. Diego Pavia did.
Not just quarterbacks.
No, I mean
all
that's
rushers.
the entire league. He finished 9th in rushing, and he was 12th in passing yards.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Not too bad, especially with what we all know. I mean, Vanderbilt getting better, but not having a ton of talent around him. FJF chimes in. Fat Joe, he says, what is Jake Coker doing now? He sells insurance and Mobile, from what I understand.
Yeah, I knew he was down in the Gulf of America. I wasn't sure exactly what he did.
Yeah, I believe him and his wife have a young child, and he sells insurance. Last I heard a couple years ago, that's what he was up to. Because I know he got a little bit of I think he was with the Cardinals maybe for a year in the NFL, but that was really all that came over that. Let's see. Paul chimes in. He says, just give Diego Pavia another year of eligibility if he can beat LSU, Alabama again, or Texas. Good for business in the SEC and Vanderbilt. I think that'll be a popular joke of giving him an extra year of eligibility. Let's see. Someone else chimes in. They say, I know it might not benefit us from a television standpoint, but I'd love to bring Georgia Tech back into the SEC. Bring North Carolina, UVA, Clemson, Florida State, and Georgia Tech to the SEC.
You want to bring Swanee back too?
Tulane. Go back to some other older schools. Another text coming in from the state of Mississippi. I feel like people are sleeping on Carson Beck. My thoughts are that he's going to have a great bounce-back year. Could you guys give your opinion on Carson Beck? I think Carson Beck's going to have a good year. Do I think he's going to have the kind of year that Cam Ward had last year? No. But I think he'll put up better numbers than he did last year. And part of that, I mean, let's be honest, he's playing in weaker conference.
Yeah. He is the 12th best quarterback according to The Athletic. He is the second Tier 2 quarterback, just ahead of Luke Altmaier at Illinois.
Ken chimes in. Says, what was Arch Manning's PFF grade versus Georgia in the 2 games last year? I'm going to guess it was somewhere around a 15 out of 100 due to the number of fumbles and runs for negative yards that he had. And that's my thing with Arch Manning. Do I think that Arch Manning's going to be a really good player? Absolutely. But we're banking what we saw from him last year on Mississippi State, who is the worst team in the conference, and Louisiana Monroe, who, no offense, is one of the worst teams in all of college football. And so, again, not saying he's not going to be a good player. I think he is. But, you know, you got to kind of keep that in mind in terms of what we've seen him go up against in his limited playing time so far in Austin. Let's see. Johnny chimes in about Jaquez Wilkes. Missed it. The 4-star edge rusher out of Wadley commits to Auburn yesterday. Moves Auburn up to 65th in the recruiting. Johnny says, Wilkes playing 1A football, but this kid can really play. He single-handedly beat my alma mater in the 3rd round of the state playoffs last year. This is a great get for Auburn. I think so as well. And best recruit in their class so far.
And one thing that we have talked about, and the people that I've talked to down at Auburn, is that, as we all know, the recruiting is like momentum. Now, Alabama has not had any other commitments over the last couple weeks after they went on that incredible run, about a 10-day period.
Well, they fell to the top 5, Pat.
They did. They're number 6 now,
ugly,
according to 247. But Auburn is now gaining a little bit of steam, a little bit of momentum. I know that they're in the market for a 5-star DB.
Womack or Womack.
That a lot of people believe that Auburn has the inside track on him. So I think that seeing Auburn where Auburn was in recruiting from a national perspective, I think those days are gone. I think they'll continue.
They're turning a corner, you think?
They will continue the upward trajectory in the Southeastern Conference.
This text rolling in says, Pat, you forgot to give your obligatory reminder that it's just a commitment as nothing is final until signing day like you do for every Alabama recruit. Alabama wasn't even recruiting them that hard because they already have the position covered with a higher-ranked player. Yeah, come on, Pat.
Okay, so let me give my disclaimer that these are verbal commitments and not until National Signing Day, in which their paperwork has been submitted via PDF format to the university of their choice, do you actually get to count them officially in the, in the clubhouse for your team.
Thank you, Pat. Always right in the world now.
Did I say that right?
You did. That was excellent. Someone else asked the question, going back to what we were talking about earlier with the CFP. In your opinion, what matters more on a resume, who you beat or who your losses are against? I always stick with who you beat.
Yeah.
Because, it's great if you have, the best losses in the country, but why would we put you in the playoff if you've had 3 opportunities against ranked teams and you can't beat any of them? What does that, mean for you come playoff time? Everyone's favorite Miami fan, Bama hater, chiming in. Says, why keep the hype going for Alabama fans when Alabama starts the season with a quarterback who has 0 starting experience in the SEC and 0 players on the first-team all-SEC defense, and after Alabama was picked 3rd in the conference, asking for all of my friends?
Would you like to take that one?
I would. Why are you optimistic about Georgia? Why are we optimistic about Texas? Why are we optimistic about Florida with the guy who's had shoulder surgery and hasn't been able to throw a football for the last 3 months? You can point out question marks around every program. I absolutely agree with that. I would say Alabama's bringing back 8 of their 11 starters on defense. They're projected to have one of the 2 or 3 best defenses in the entire conference. They have an absolutely stacked running back room. They've been predicted to have the best offensive line in all of college football. So I think if you go in a season with a quarterback with no starting experience, with all of that around him, I think, you can see where the recipe for success would be, especially when you add a guy like Ryan Grubb into the mix as the offensive coordinator. Somebody chiming in, they say, speaking of expansion, yeah, I like that idea. Bring Tulane back, along with Georgia Tech and UNC and Sewanee? Is that what you said, Pat?
Yes.
This is a good text. Someone sent in this text, don't have a name, says Carson Beck is going to be this year's version of DJ, you need to get a job. Obviously a play on DJ Uiagalelei, the FSU and Clemson former quarterback. Another text on Carson Beck. Everyone hates Carson Beck for leaving Georgia for Miami, but that's the smartest thing he ever could have done to bolster his stats ahead of the NFL draft. Hey, Miami showed that they can put the players around you to make you the first overall pick. Just ask Mr. Ward from last year. And someone timing in now, typical Bama hater, he's always got Alabama's sausage in his mouth. So appreciate all of the wonderful texts this morning, 205-834-9450.
Yes, we appreciate the input very, very much so. Molly, I believe you have something you want to play for us. Is that correct? Sure. You know what that sound signifies? No, we're not in the NFL draft. That means that there has been
a commitment?
A commitment.
Oh.
Now, see, yesterday, when Auburn got the commitment, we couldn't play it. I told Paul he needed to play it on his show, but he apparently
were off the air.
Didn't play it. But Alabama now have officially got 2 quarterbacks committed in the 2026 recruiting class. Remember, it was a couple Tuesdays ago when they got the top player out of the state of Nebraska.
That's right.
Well, now they have gone to the state of Utah, and they have gotten Taden Kawa. I believe I said his name correct. He is committed to the Crimson Tide. Now, he is a 4-star recruit, according to Rivals. He is a 3-star recruit, according to 247 Sports. He is the 6th ranked player in the state of Utah. He chose Alabama over BYU, Arizona, Arizona State. So he now marks the 20th recruit that's committed to the Crimson Tide in the 2026 class. Before his decision, Alabama was ranked number 6 per the 247 Sports Composite and Rivals. So I'm not sure. I have not checked to see if that has been updated. But Taden Kawa, quarterback out of the state of Utah, has now committed to the University of Alabama.
And he's originally from Hawaii, which means he is automatically my new favorite player.
Are you going to get
He's a junior.
a Taden Kawa jersey? Is he left-handed?
Absolutely. No. Well, this graphic, he's thrown
He's
right-handed,
right-handed?
So not quite to but yeah, quarterback from with roots from the state of Hawaii. Sign me up.
So he now joins Jet Tamala as the 2 quarterbacks committed to the Crimson Tide in this class. Tamala, if you remember, he flipped from Iowa State. He's a 4-star prospect and the number 12 quarterback of the class. So Alabama getting some recruiting news. We were just referencing that last hour that it had been pretty quiet on the Alabama recruiting scene. So they go and pick up their 2nd quarterback in the quarterback class. We're live at Social Taco. Come on by and see us. FSU Dave has made his appearance. Other notable listeners have made their way here to the Taco Terrace. Hope to see you. This is 3-Man Front. We're on Jox. Welcome back in. It's three-man front on this hot, steamy Tuesday. Landry will be back with us on Thursday, fresh off his retreat to Orlando, Florida. Can't wait for the stories that we will hear when he returns.
Oh, I'm sure they'll be interesting. Just like we'll have some great stories from up here at Social Taco. I just got cussed out in Russian during the commercial break.
Yeah, that's the first time that I've ever seen someone get cussed out in Russian.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
That was a first for me. But.
Yeah, FSU Dave. I did not realize that he spoke Russian, but it makes sense because he was on the world tennis circuit for many, many years as one of the top officials.
That's right. Yeah, that's true.
So he, I guess, all the bad calls that he made as a linesman or as the head chair.
Picked up on some of those phrases.
In tennis, yeah. He got cussed out in Russian a few times because he did not take too kindly to your Tommy Castellanos comment last hour.
Yeah, no. All I was doing, Dave, I'm not very good at math. So I was just looking at the rankings, and I was making sure that I had my numbers correct. And based on what the Athletics telling you, yes, Thomas Castellanos would be the worst quarterback in the SEC if he was at – Dave, it's not my rankings. It's not my rankings.
All good, my friend.
Now, do I agree with the ranking? I mean, it was – I will say, having Zach Calzada ahead of him is certainly a decision that someone made.
So just a couple minutes ago, the Orem, Utah four-star quarterback, Caden Kawa, he announced that he is going to the University of Alabama. He's a 6'5" quarterback. He took an official visit at Alabama on June the 20th through the 22nd. BYU was considered the biggest competition for Alabama. So he has committed to come to Tuscaloosa, Alabama to play for the Alabama Crimson Tide.
You think the honor code was
maybe an issue?
Yeah, just a little bit of I can't decide between these two, and then you get the whole honor code situation. You're like, just go down south.
No, I think he's good.
Change of scenery.
I think he's good. He's a fine young man. FSU Dave came in here, cussed you out in Russian. Now he's
gone. I know.
Now he's leaving.
That was nice.
He had 3 beers, and now he's leaving.
Thank you, Dave. Good to see you. Always fun to talk with FSU.
Oh, yeah.
Dave.
That trip's going to be fun for you and him. And
it's going to be great.
And Damien heading down to Tallahassee.
No, I love it that every time I see him, he just reminds me, he says, all kidding aside, you realize your life is going to suck if Florida State beats Alabama. I know. Oh, I'm well aware. I am well aware.
Well, speaking of FSU Dave's Florida State Seminoles, the ACC having their media days today in Charlotte, North Carolina. Miami and SMU, those are the 2 big schools that are meeting with the media. And just a few moments ago, it was Mario Cristobal was in front of the media, and he was asked about which CFP format does he prefer. He says, no automatic qualifiers. The 5+11+ model is what makes sense to me personally because football is cyclical. It comes and goes in cycles. You don't want to make football a pageant. You win, you're in. End of quote. So Mario Cristobal going on record saying he prefers the 5+11 model.
And I think, and I mean, I guess that's, again, not a surprise that you're not going to have probably any ACC coaches out there. Yeah, let's go with the 4-4-2-2 model because that doesn't really benefit them quite as much, but or potentially doesn't have the potential to benefit them as much. But the more we talk about the 5-11 format, I really like the 5-11 format. I understand the Big Ten's hang up with it, but I do think that ultimately, if that's the way that we go, you make the teams earn it on the field, right? And like he's saying, it is cyclical. So if you have that year where, let's say, the ACC has 3 really, really good teams, well, you're going to be able to get them all in. But you also don't want to necessarily go ahead and automatically reward. Do we think every year there's going to be multiple ACC and Big 12 teams that are worthy of a playoff? Probably not. So I like the 5-11. I'm glad Mario's thinking with his noggin.
Jim Phillips this morning told the media conversations continue about the CFP format moving forward in 2026. He believes access to conference champions is paramount in any discussion moving forward. He also said that they have discussed a 9-game conference schedule in the ACC. He says if the SEC were to move to 9 games, that the ACC would consider it. The problem with the ACC is they've got 17 teams, so it's an odd number.
Yes.
So trying to work that out in regards to trying to play 9 conference games amongst 17 teams, that could be problematic. But he says that they are open to all ideas to look out. Also this morning, the ACC has announced that they're instituting the availability reports in football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball. The change is directly connected to their ongoing commitment to best protect their student athletes and our multifaceted approach to addressing the effects of sports wagering. So we saw the SEC last year. They had the updates. They had the player reports. Also, the ACC announced this morning that if you go on the field or you storm the court, you're going to get fined. $50,000 for the first offense. It doubles to $100,000, and then it doubles another $100,000 for the third offense. So not quite the bite.
So the cap would be $200,000
that the SEC has in regards to what they fine the individual schools. Now, Clemson has already released a statement because, Clemson allows everybody to come on the field as soon as the game's over with. Yeah. So basically the ACC is trying to tell everybody, look, just have a plan in place and make sure that the opposing team has departed the field.
And then have at it.
And then everybody else can come on the field. So I just find it funny how the ACC, $50,000 for the first offense, which...
So we're going to be here again a year from now, and they're going to say, well, we maybe underestimated this a little bit, and so now we're going to increase it to a $500,000 fine, like we saw with the SEC where they had to bump it up a little bit. So that's very slap on the wristy from the ACC. $50,000. Who's not going to pay $50,000 to go storm the field if you have a big upset?
Yeah, that's no big deal. But the biggest story coming out of the ACC Media Days in Charlotte today, it's not what the automatic qualifiers, the 5+11 model, or anything like that. It was the announcement that Jimbo Fisher is back in football. He is joining the ACC network as a studio analyst. Fisher, of course, went 83-23 at Florida State. He won 3 ACC titles and a national championship in Tallahassee. From 2012 through 2014, FSU went 39-3 and dropped only 1 ACC game. Quoting Jimbo Fisher in the press release, I've always had tremendous respect for this conference, and I'm looking forward to breaking down the action each week with such a talented group. End of quote. He's going to work primarily as a studio analyst on ACC Huddle, the network's pregame show, alongside host Taylor Tannenbaum and analyst Eric McClain and Eddie Royal.
Man, I really wish FSU Dave hadn't left 5 minutes ago. That's, okay.
Landrum's dream came true.
Maybe, yeah, I guess in Landrum's dream they were in a helicopter. Maybe that's how he'll get to the ACC Network studios. But, I mean, staying around the game, I don't think, we all expect eventually he's going to want to get back into coaching, right? So this is normally what you do.
Happens.
Yep, you do.
Urban Meyer did it.
Yep, year and two in television, and then back you go to the coaching ranks.
Yep, so Jimbo Fisher. It's crazy to think that just a few years ago, he and Nick Saban went toe-to-toe with a verbal barrage there at the it started with Nick Saban at the country actually it was
it at the Birmingham Country Club, or
no,
where was that
Birmingham
event?
Club. It was at the club.
The club.
It was
That's
at
right.
the club on top of Red Mountain, in which he took some pot shots at Texas A&M, and then that started a firestorm of activity back and forth between Jimbo Fisher until finally Jimmy Sexton and Greg Sankey had to step in and say, enough, guys. We don't need this.
When we got your legendary seating chart for
right.
the spring meetings that year as well, that was such a fun time.
Oh, it was a great time having those two. And then, of course, Alabama was supposed to beat the dog you-know-what out of Texas A&M, and then Texas A&M almost beat them in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Yeah, and then the next year they did beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Good times.
But it's just wild to think that both Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher are employees of the Disney Corporation.
That's an interesting connection there, but yes, that would technically be correct.
Do you think they'll take both families to Orlando?
Oh, like a joint vacation
like a
kind of thing?
joint family type deal?
No, probably not. Probably not. I just wonder if he's going to keep the ranch, or is he going to have to give up the ranch, and is he going to move? or stay put. We know he has a son that plays football at Sanford as well, so
Yep.
he'll be a well-traveled man this upcoming fall, I would think.
Sure will. A lot of frequent flyer miles.
Yep.
To say the very least. We are live at Social Taco as we are each and every Tuesday. Come on by and see us. Good to see Rob from Helena. He has made his appearance here at the Social Taco event. We will be here until 2 o'clock. Come on by and see us. This is Jox, three-man front. It is 11:34 on this hot, steamy Tuesday. Welcome back. This is Three-Man Front on Jox. Pat and Conrad live on site. Molly back at studio. Landrum Roberts will be back with us on Thursday, back from his vacation, his last deep breath before we go the gauntlet through the SEC football season. A lot of topics this morning, from the ACC football media days to the tiered quarterbacks that we were talking about. Both Alabama and Auburn's presumed quarterbacks, that being Jackson Arnold and Ty Simpson, according to The Athletic, would be in the 40s, basically, ranked quarterbacks of the 136, which would be a Tier 4 quarterback in regards to the publication. So we'd love to hear from you. Courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450. You know, over the weekend, I was able to get on my zero turn from Artec Tractor. Jeremy and Greg and the guys, they're going to take care of you just like they took care of me. They're located just north of Jasper on Highway 5. artechtractor.com, that's the website. I went on the website and I decided this is the one that I wanted. So then I got on the phone with Jeremy, and Jeremy gave me the the mowers and the zero turns that I would need for my property. And so many other people, you need bush hogs, you need to do things around your larger property than what I have, or if you've got a hunting lodge or you got a hunting area that you need done. They've got everything that you can expect. They got Mahindra, Bobcat, everything from large home acreage, small homesteads to large farms, those hunting plots. They've got the machine right for you. I decided to go to Artech Tractor. They have been a longtime sponsor of Jox. And because of that loyalty to the radio station, I gave them the opportunity to get my business. And you know what? It did not take long with Jeremy and those great guys that they gave me the peace of mind of knowing that what I was doing and pulling the trigger on was exactly what I needed, and I have not looked back. It is actually fun for me to do yard work again. That's right. Let's make yard work fun again. And that's exactly what I have now, thanks to Artech Tractor. So get by and see them. Toro, Cub Cadet, Gravely, Bobcat, Spartan, residential to commercial grade. Go by and see them just north of Jasper on Highway 5. Simply go to their website and then give them a call, artechtractor.com. Now, you want one, don't you?
I absolutely do, and certainly when Paige and I, hopefully early or sometime next spring, are moving into a new house with a little bit bigger yard, because fortunately now we have lawn care that takes care of that. Yeah, I'll absolutely want a zero. I just want to come over and drive it.
Come on. More than welcome to.
I've known you for a long time, not as long as Landrum, but I feel like I've known you for a long time now, and I really think the happiest I've ever seen you is when you got that lawnmower. I'm not even kidding.
I know. It's in some respects, people will go, "Wow,
yeah,
okay."
Whatever makes you.
It's the things, certain things in life that will make you happy.
That's right. Whatever makes you happy. That's what matters.
I mean, once my boys got to the point to where they were getting married and graduating college and getting full-time jobs, I just didn't live with me anymore.
Yeah, you could use them to take care of your lawn.
That became a problem. So
that's what I'm excited about for having kids, is getting them to do stuff for me.
It's like the old days. Everyone lived on a farm, and then what'd they do? They had as many kids as they could because they needed as many farm hands as you could get.
That's right. I'll never have to do dishes again. It'll be great.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. I know we've got a lot of folks that want to chime in on a lot of different subjects, Conrad.
Absolutely. We have somebody, Randy, chiming in about what Mario Cristobal said at ACC Media Days. Says Mario Cristobal is correct. Plus, NIL and the transfer portal have leveled the playing field among the conferences more so than ever before. The SEC is tough, there's no doubt, but that shouldn't warrant entitlement into the playoffs. He also says, I think the max for a playoff field should be 8 teams. So he would like to go from 12 to shrink it to 8 as opposed to expanding from 12 to 16. We have Ken, who chimes in. Says the Bama offensive line is absurdly overrated. They gave up 23 sacks last year and lost the best O-lineman to the draft in Tyler Booker. Sacks would have doubled if they didn't have a wide receiver playing quarterback. Now, I will agree with the sentiment of, because PFF is who put out there a couple of weeks ago that they project Alabama to have the best offensive line in the country. I am very much in the I need to see it before I believe it category. I was just saying that there are people out there who are professionals, that this is their job, who have claimed that Alabama projects to have the best offensive line in college football, but I agree that I'm not buying that until we see the product on the field. Let's see, we have another text coming in. Guys, I hope you don't think I'm crazy for saying this, but one game that scares me for Florida this year is the South Florida game. They always seem to give teams a fight. Well, you must have watched Alabama play USF the last couple of years.
That was a painful game last year. If you're an Alabama fan, watching that offensive line for Alabama struggle against South Florida.
And then you had the rain game 2 years ago where you had Tyler Buckner as your starting quarterback. It was something. But Alex Golish has done a great job with that program. So, yeah, I think, again, Florida, you should be fine, but absolutely not a game that you can take super lightly. We have Bama Hater chiming in again, Pat. And he has a call to action for you. He says, and this is in all caps, so you know that this is serious. Pat, when are you going to make the on-air debate happen between me and the funky toothbrush licker Conrad? A debate of why he thinks Alabama is all that and why I think Bama ain't it. Hashtag I want all the smoke.
All right, now what did he call you again?
The funky toothbrush licker. I've been called much worse. I'll take that.
The funky toothbrush licker.
I'll take it. It is what it is. But Bama hater, we literally had this conversation. See, now I'm worried about his health, right? And does he have short-term memory loss? Because we literally had that exact debate on the air last Friday for a good 6 or 7 minutes, just me and him going at it on the phone line. So I don't know what else you want to get out of that conversation, JK, but that is that.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Like a full-on moderated debate. Will you moderate it? You and Landrum?
Give each one of you, 30 seconds to state your case and a rebuttal, and then back and forth. I think it's a great idea.
I love it. Let's see. We have somebody who, not going to read that. Not happy with Bama haters text, unsurprisingly. We have another text coming in from the state of Florida. Let's be honest, and I just want your guys' honest opinion. If the playoffs go to 16 teams, do you really think that in any given year there are 16 teams that could actually win a national championship? I will say no.
No.
The difference in teams that can make a college football playoff and teams that can win a national championship, let's say there's 25 teams you think could make a college football playoff in a given year. I would say there's, maybe 5 that could actually win a national championship?
It's the same as it's always been in regards to even back when it was just the BCS. You had a handful of teams every single year, 4 to 5. And in this new age of NIL and transfer portal, teams will start to separate themselves just like they did before, and it will be the haves and the have-nots.
So tell me if you agree with this, because we've been talking a lot about the SEC standings, and we all agree Texas, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, that's the top 4, right? They're the cream of the crop this year, or we expect them to be, right? Would you say that all of those teams, in your opinion, are national championship contenders, or would belong in that conversation?
How many?
The top 4, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, and Texas.
Yes.
And then we would take a step down, the South Carolinas, the Floridas, the Ole Miss. I think we'd all agree those are playoff contenders,
yes,
but not national championship contenders.
Correct.
So that's just kind of trying to paint a picture, at least of how we view that difference there. We have Corey chiming in on the text line. It says, if you want the actual 12 best teams in the playoffs, then there should be no auto bids, as in conference champions are not automatically in the playoffs. So I guess you would just want the top 12, which is 1 through 12, regardless of anything else.
The problem with that is that you are putting so much pressure on a selection committee that we don't have the faith in to begin with.
That's
so.
What I said.
So at least with an automatic qualifier as a conference champion, then you are able to build in potentially only 7 if you want 12 teams in, or if it's 16, then you've got 11 at-large teams potentially available that they have to vote on and come to a conclusion about. And unless they change the way the strength of schedule is prepared and shared with the vast majority of the people in America, then I think people would have a problem with the committee having that much power.
Well, and that's the other thing, right, is we need the transparency. It's one thing for them to say, oh, yeah, strength of schedule is the most important, but if we can't see the data that reflects that, then how do we know? We'll wrap up with this one for now. Bobby on the text line chimes in. He says, if Bama Hater and Conrad have their on-air debate again, don't call it a challenge, because unless it involves a stranger's toothbrush, we all know Conrad's not winning that debate. Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate all of your wonderful text.
Thank you, Bobby, for the text. We will continue to read your text. Good to see Dr. Mel. He has made it here on site for this wonderful gathering of our listeners here at Three Man Front and Jox. More with Mike Rodak at the top of the hour, Brett Norsworthy at 12:30, Mike Griffith live from ACC Media Days in the 1 o'clock hour. So we're just getting started on this hot, steamy Tuesday on Jox. This is Jox. This is Three Man Front. Hope everyone's having a wonderful Tuesday. We'll talk to Mike Rodak. Alabama gets a quarterback commitment today from the state of Utah. They've been going all over the country. They got one of the top quarterbacks in the state of Nebraska. They've now gotten a four-star quarterback, Caden Kawa, from Orrin, Utah. So he is now committed to the University of Alabama. And I was looking, Conrad, Alabama was 6th nationally in recruiting, and I'm seeing if they are now number 4 in recruiting.
Oh, wow, that
has
bumped up
just,
that much.
They have jumped ahead of Notre Dame and Texas. So according to the 247 composite, as we speak, this has just been updated. USC is number 1. They have 31 commitments, followed by the Georgia Bulldogs with 30, Texas A&M with 26 commitments. Alabama is now 4th, according to 247, with 20 commitments. 5 of those 20 are 5 stars, followed by Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State, LSU, Oregon, and Miami. That is your top 10. I'm seeing where Auburn started the morning at 65 after their commitment yesterday. That was up 10 spots from 75, and they stay at 65. So just the front, 4, 5, 6, and 7 kind of moved around a little bit, but Auburn maintains with 11 commitments. They have 5 4-star commitments and 6 3-star commitments.
But that also shows you, right, if you're an Auburn fan and you got 1 4-star player and you moved up 10 spots.
Yeah.
So imagine what's going to happen. Let's say you
get
pile
that 5
on.
star.
Yeah, you get a 5-star. You get 3 or 4 more 4-stars. You get those guys in there, and suddenly we're not talking about you being in the 70s or the 60s in the recruiting rankings. Now we're talking maybe you're in the 30s, and that's when you start knocking on, hey, is a top 15 class truly an option here? It is interesting because, you're talking about the shuffle we had at the top with Alabama now being at 4. It's just wild when you go and look at – so USC, you mentioned, they have 31 commitments. Georgia has 30. But USC has 24 stars. Georgia has 21. A&M has 23, and Notre Dame has 21 4-star recruits compared to Alabama's 9. Those are massive numbers. I mean, 23 for Texas A&M. That's quantity and quality.
There's no doubt about that. It is odd seeing that the Big Ten Media Days, which will start in about an hour and a half in Las Vegas, Nevada. Molly, have you been seeing some of these clips? The media folks are freaking out because they have to walk through a casino to get to the area at Mandalay Bay.
Oh, no, that's so terrible.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds like a gift, honestly.
Well, I mean, I think there's probably some people that's got gambling problems, and they just don't want to be tempted. That's what it is.
I could see that.
I mean, it's like an alcoholic having to walk through a bar before you get to a convention.
Yeah, understandable.
I just saw a picture of Ryan Day and Dylan Raiola catching up at Big Ten Media Days. You think maybe Ryan Day's trying to get him in the transfer portal?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But he won't, not on my watch. I'm still funding to the NIL collective, don't worry.
So what do you
Molly's doing her part.
So what do you think when it's all said and done? I've seen anywhere from 7, 8, 9. Where do you think Nebraska is going to be ranked?
Like in the Big Ten standings?
Yeah.
Honestly, and I know that this is, I don't know how to put this. I would be happy with any of those, Pat, to be quite honest. And I was even talking about it with Greg and Damien this morning. Like, I would be happy with 8 wins. I would be happy with 7 wins. I just want to be above 500. Considering what I've had to endure the past couple of years, especially my college years of Nebraska football, I would be happy with the bowl game again. Truly.
And you figured up last year Minnesota went 8-5, right?
Correct.
Finishing 8th in the Big Ten.
Yep. They went
that's
5 and 4 in conference play.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would be happy with that.
Okay. All right.
Can't ask for too much.
No, that's
Because I love
can't.
Nebraska, but we're bound to lose a couple games that we probably shouldn't. So,
It's just still weird to see them in Las Vegas.
That would be so fun, though. Now, granted, obviously, we will see how it plays out because you can see where that would maybe cause some issues. But I think that's pretty cool.
Yep.
You certainly don't have no shortage of things to do after the coaches are done speaking at the podium. That's for sure.
No, you would have plenty to do. We still don't know where the SEC is going to be next year.
Maybe it'll be in Las Vegas. Who knows? I mean, I feel like I heard 8 different cities last week. Of, oh, it's going to be here. Oh, it's going to be here. Oh, it's going to be like even some that you just wouldn't even think of. You're like, oh, really? Okay.
Well, I was talking to someone, and they had told me, and this is someone that is absolutely in the know, and they mentioned the fact that it appeared that they were lined up to be somewhere that had never been before for the SEC Media Days, and it fell through because of a conflict with where they were going to have it. I guess there was another convention, there was something coming into town. And I was unaware until last week that these individual cities, they actually make a bid to the conference.
Just like you would on a smaller scale for the Olympics or something.
Or or just like any convention that a tourism convention bureau would make a bid on.
Where's the All-Star game next year for MLB?
That's in Philadelphia.
Oh, well then we might as well just go there, make it 3 years in a row that we follow around the Major League Baseball All-Star
Yeah, for
game.
some reason I do not think that we'll be in the city of brotherly love next year for SEC Media Days.
Is Beyonce still going to be on tour next year?
Not unless we add Temple.
And then Matt Rule could come back.
See?
He could come to the SEC.
That's right.
See, Molly, that would be great for everybody.
Yep, we got it all figured out. Yeah, that's what potentially could happen. Temple would leave the American and head to the SEC.
That's right.
And then we could have it in Philadelphia next year to welcome them aboard. Just like we did, Texas and Oklahoma last year. We had media days in Dallas.
We're very nice to our new, well, unfortunately for Oklahoma, I guess.
So wanted the Oklahoma
They got the
fans
short
to
end of the
come
stick.
across the Red River into Dallas, and meanwhile the Texas folk come up from Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it is next year. I mean, again, I'm not going to be upset if it's in Atlanta again. I think that setup's really, really nice, and it's obviously convenient for us being able to drive. So we'll see.
Coming up next, Mike Rodak from Bama 247. We'll ask him about the brand new recruit for the Alabama Crimson Tide. They got him a quarterback from Utah, not the University of Utah. Plays high school football in the state of Utah. 12:30, we'll go to Memphis, Tennessee, talk about Memphis trying to buy their way into the Big 12 Conference. Then at 1 o'clock, we will go to Charlotte, North Carolina. Talk to Mike Griffith, who's covering ACC Media Days. All that straight ahead. We're halfway home on this steamy Tuesday on Jox. It is 12 noon. Welcome back. This is Three Man Front. We are live at Social Taco Tuesday here in Homewood. Our next guest from Bama 247 covers the Alabama Crimson Tide, Mike Rodak. He has broken bread and chips with us before here at Social Taco. I invited Mike. I'm on the record. Invited Mike.
You did?
To join us today. He had some previous activities planned, but he has carved out a couple minutes for us here.
Well, we heard Landrum wasn't going to be here, so he didn't want to show up.
Yeah, kind of ruined the appearance if Landrum's not going to be here. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Doing well. I was actually right across the street on Friday night at Soho Social, which was a great time.
Oh,
but
very nice.
Yeah, I have
Wonderful.
been to Social Taco before, and this is my son's first summer home because he just finished kindergarten and now he's in first grade. We're about to go in first grade, and I'm learning, the parents' plight of just can't wait until the first day of school. So we still are counting down the days. What is it, like 18 days now we have left?
Something like that.
Our refrigerator. So it's that time of year for me.
Well, Mike, we wanted to check in with you before we talk about SEC Football Media Days last week. I just want to just ask you, I know that you cover Alabama, and maybe you guys do such a great job at Bama 247 covering the recruiting angle, but I just want to a 30,000-foot view, if you have one, over the Alabama quarterback commitment that they got just a couple hours ago. Not that this is a big surprise, but it's Caden Kawa, if I'm saying his last name correctly, from Orem, Utah. What can you tell us about him in regards to his prowess as now he is committed to Alabama?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. Kawa, 3-star prospect. It was between him and BYU, and he's right from that BYU area, right in Provo. So obviously, there's going to be a lot of moving parts at the quarterback position for Alabama. I think that's kind of the broad topic to look at. And yes, even if Ty Simpson is a starter, you don't really know which direction things are going to go at the end of this year for him. I mean, if he has a really great year, this is his 4th year of college. I think he's probably off to the NFL. If he kind of flops and loses the starting job, then I think you're obviously looking at him transferring at the end of the year. And if it's kind of in between, if he has a decent year, but not really totally ready for the NFL, it's going to be an interesting decision for him and for Alabama as well, because you have Keelan Russell waiting as the highest ranked commit they've ever had at any position, but particularly at quarterback. And does he sit on the bench for a second year? And so you have moving parts there. You have Austin Mack, who this is his 3rd year. If he doesn't play this year, does he go into the portal at the end of the year? So I think right now you can safely say Keelan Russell is going to be at Alabama. Beyond that, you don't know. And so you needed to add some quarterbacks. They already added Jet Kamala, who's a higher-ranked freshman coming in, and that gives you 2. And I think if you add Kawa, that gives you 3. Now, that's a pretty young depth chart potentially next year if it's Keelan Russell, Tamala, and Kawa. Maybe you add somebody through the portal, but that's kind of the broad view, is that you're going to have potentially some guys leaving, and you need somebody in that room. I don't know if Caden Kawa is ever going to really play for Alabama. Maybe he just sticks around for a couple years, learns from Kalen DeBoer, and goes somewhere else, but kind of gives you that insurance policy and gives you that depth.
So, Mike, I wanted to ask you, now kind of getting into some of the media day stuff from last week, just from your impression of what you heard, maybe from the players as well, but specifically from Kalen DeBoer when he was meeting with the media and he was up at the podium. What kind of impression did you get from Kalen DeBoer? Because I thought for us, it really felt like maybe he was more comfortable this year. Maybe part of that was having Nick Saban not be a part of media days like he was last year, but it really had more of a sense of, this is the coach of Alabama football, this is his program now, and he just seemed a lot more comfortable up there addressing the media. Did you get kind of that same sense from Kalen DeBoer last week?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Obviously, your second time around, not just for him, I think for a lot of people, that's probably going to be the case. And I think it's a lot of the storylines and the talking points that you would expect from a second-year coach. And look, I've seen a bunch in my years. I saw Rex Ryan's second year in Buffalo. I saw Doug Marone's second year. I saw Sean McDermott's second year. And it's a lot of the same thing, like continuity. We're not scrambling because we just hired a staff and we're trying to get everybody on the same page. And we're starting from a further point down the road. I think a lot of those talking points are kind of copy and paste, for any second-year coach, and they're true Obviously, in this case, I do think, there's a lot that they've already had in place now coming out of year one that helps going into year two. But, I've seen it work both ways. It didn't work with Rex Ryan, didn't work with Doug Marrone, didn't really work for Sean McDermott his second year in Buffalo, but, maybe it will work for Kalen DeBoer's second year. So it's kind of as expected is the way I would put it. Yes, there's a greater comfort level from him. Yes, I think he hit on a lot of the points that you would expect. What it means in 4 or 5 months, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Mike Rodak joins us from Bama 247 talking about the upcoming season for Alabama. So the media, typically, we just do not get it right when we make these predictions in the preseason, especially at media days. But when the final vote came out on Friday afternoon, were you shocked at where Alabama was placed, or do you think that's a fair assessment of where Alabama can be this year?
No, not really surprised at all. I think that's kind of where I expected them. I think it was between 3 and 4. We did our own poll on 247
right.
Sports among our writers, and they were number 4 behind LSU. I think that could have gone either way. I think the voting points for media days was pretty close. So it was going to be one of those 2 spots at the end of the day. Obviously, that will be decided on the field at Bryant-Denny this November. But LSU's had a good offseason. They brought in the number 1 portal class. Obviously, Nussmeier is potentially the best quarterback coming out of this draft. And, there's probably more optimism around them than there was a year ago. So I think it's reasonable to put LSU third. But you could also have a discussion, should Alabama be in the conversation with Georgia? Just kind of where Georgia's fallen off a little bit, similar to Alabama from a few years ago. And, where's number 2? So it was going to be in that range, not too surprising. I wasn't at media days, so I didn't personally vote, but I did vote in our 247 poll, and I had Alabama number 3. So that kind of seems like where it was going to be.
Mike Rodak from Bama 247 joining us here on the Taco Tuesday edition of Three Man Front. And so not a big surprise, I agree with you, Mike, on the standings with Alabama being third. I think something that may be a surprise for Alabama fans, though, is the fact that for the first time ever in the history of the preseason media poll, Alabama did not have a defensive player make first team all SEC in the preseason poll. Was that a bit of a surprise to you, or do you kind of look at this defense this year as more the collective group of talent is what's going to make it special, as opposed to maybe 1 or 2 guys that are really, really standout defensive dominant players?
Not too surprised in the sense that you don't have kind of that dominant player coming back that, you can go back through history, most recently like a Dallas Turner or Will Anderson. I think even last year, I'm trying to think who was on the first team last year. It might have been Lawson. But you don't have necessarily that player without too many question marks, but you have a lot of players that, not just for the draft, but for the season and these lists as a whole, like if they kind of check a few more boxes, they're going to be in a really good spot. I think that's true for Tim Keenan. I think that's true for LT Overton. I think that's true for Deontay Lawson. I think that's true for Damani Jackson. I think that's true for Keon Sabb. Like, you can go right down the list, whether it's an injury or like Overton, just like converting those pressures into sacks is the big storyline for him. If those things happen and they take that next step, not only could they be first team all SEC by the end of the season, but a lot of those guys who might right now be a second, third, fourth round pick could move up in potentially the first round. So there's a lot of guys right on the cusp. Even Damani Jackson's coming back from an injury as well. So not too surprised. I think the defense as a whole could certainly be the best in the SEC, but there probably isn't that one dominant player right now, like historically a Minka or Will Anderson, et cetera.
Mike, in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, Alabama will be on the practice field. For you personally, what's some of the position battles that you're going to be kind of honed in on in regards to what Alabama, those position battles that you're looking forward to covering and think that's going to be a big storyline for this fall?
Yeah, they're set at a lot of positions, especially defensively. I'm not even sure, the starting jobs defensively, if there's any big questions. I think offensively there's probably a little bit more competition at left guard, where they brought in Cam Dewberry from Texas A&M. They have Geno Vandenberg coming back. You're trying to replace a pretty big loss in Tyler Booker. One of those that's probably not talked about enough, just because A, he's a great player, but B, he was the leader of the locker room last year. So that's a big role to fill on and off the field, that left guard spot. Wide receiver, obviously I think you feel good about Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, but beyond that, I think Rico Scott's really the biggest name, and people don't talk about him a whole lot. He was a freshman last year out of Pennsylvania, has a great offseason, and he's probably the number 4 receiver. I know everybody talks about Jalen Hale, who had his injury last year. They talk about Jalen Mbakwe, who converted to wide receiver. Obviously, Latsier Brooks has come in and done a lot of things as a freshman in the spring, but right now I think Rico Scott's the number 4 receiver. So that second string, that second wave of wide receivers is another area that I'll probably be watching as well.
So, Mike, I wanted to ask you about the run game in particular for Alabama, because as we know, last year it was a lot of Jalen Milroe, as you would have expected. But now with Ty Simpson, and he does have some wheels that we've seen kind of in his mop-up duty at times, but I would expect, you're going to get back to more of the run game focused around your tailbacks with Jam Miller and Richard Young there in the backfield. What are you expecting from Alabama's run game this year? Because you go back to the last year with Ryan Grubb and DeBoer in Washington, Dylan Johnson had 1,200 yards, 16 touchdowns on the ground there. So obviously we know they like to throw the ball, but obviously they know what to do with the running backs as well.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, it was pretty focused around Dylan Johnson, and I'd be interested to see how long they would stick with Jam Miller if they're not getting the explosiveness and the productivity that they think they wanted to see that they didn't see last year. They stuck with Jam throughout last year. Obviously, you had Justice Haynes kind of as his, the guy who would spell him a little bit, but he's not. I don't think Jam Miller is ever going to be considered a first-round pick at any point this season. I don't think he's going to be considered a second-round pick or maybe even a third-round pick. Like, he's just kind of is who he is. Solid player. If he's still not giving you the big explosive runs, being the home run hitter that you need, do they turn to somebody else a little bit more? I think is the question I would have. And you have options, like you said, Richard Young, but also Daniel Hill's kind of that bigger guy. They went out and they brought in Draylon Washington from Louisiana through the portal, which was an interesting addition because he's a fifth-year senior. This is the end for him. This is the only chance for him to get on the field, and he's a little bit more of that potentially explosive back. So I'd be interested to see how they split the carries. I think at the beginning, yes, I think you give it to Jam Miller, you see what happens. If it's better than last year, then great. If it's not, you probably go to somebody else a little bit more. But overall, you're right. This is an offense that historically Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb are going to throw the ball almost as much as anybody in the country. And I don't know if the rushing stats, the counting total rushing stats are going to be all that impressive compared to what we're used to historically from Alabama.
Mike, a final question. We're joined by Mike Rodak from Bama 247, and it has to do with the pressure that Kalen DeBoer will face this year in year number 2. He's at Alabama. He took the job following the greatest coach of all time, so he understands the pressure. But if we're sitting here next year at this time and Alabama once again went 9-3 in the regular season and missed the college football playoff, what kind of pressure do you anticipate that he would be feeling from Greg Byrne and the rest of Alabama Nation?
I mean, a lot. Obviously, not even waiting until next July. I think
sure.
That would obviously happen in December. And
right.
Look, I think there would be questions about would he be back for a third season. I think financially, that's going to be a huge hurdle for them to overcome if that was the case. Whether it's 9-3 or 8-4 or whatever it might be, hypothetically, like that's a big buyout and that's a big commitment when you're already trying to pay players and find the money in revenue sharing. You're also talking about changing over an assistant coaching staff, and that would be a big deal. And somebody would have to kind of pony up that money, or somebody's. So as much as there might be pressure, I just would wonder how realistic it would be to do anything about it. But I don't know. They have, the new school president just started, Peter Moeller, yesterday. How that changes anything, how he views things, coming from Ohio State. I think will factor into all of this as well. Does he want to stir the pot, or does he want to kind of let Greg Byrne do what Greg Byrne does? I think would be part of it. Obviously, the trustees would be involved there. So, going down a big rabbit hole there. But yes, I think if he stayed, and by the time you get to next July, there would be a whole lot of pressure on him. And, I think you bring in a coach like that because you develop quarterbacks, you get the offensive production. And I think that's where we're, going to look primarily, because you didn't see it last year. As much as they had at wide receiver and as what the talent level was with Jalen Miller, I don't think it ever was what we thought it could be. And if it's not again with what they have now, then, where does that lead? And, I think the trump card for Kalen DeBoer is going to be Keelan Russell, because you can say, give me a third year, give me Keelan Russell under center for a third year and see what happens. I think that's kind of the feather in his cap that he's saving a little bit.
That is Mike Rodak. You can follow his work at Bama247. Mike, always a pleasure to catch up with you. We are just weeks away from the rat race continuing for the next 6 months, so we appreciate you taking time. Hope to see you soon.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks. That's Mike Rodak joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. We'll break down what Mike Rodak just told us in regards to Alabama for 2025. Bottom of the hour, we'll go to Memphis, find out about the Tigers trying to buy their way into the Big 12. We'll go to Charlotte, North Carolina in the 1 o'clock hour. Mike Griffith from Dog Nation, AJC, will join us as he is there covering the event live. So much to get into on this Tuesday. This is Three Man Front. It's 12:20. Welcome back. Three-man front. Great conversation with Mike Rodak. If you missed that conversation, you can go back and download it on the Three-Man Front podcast. Anything Mike said that kind of took you by surprise about Alabama for the 2025 season?
No, I mean, there's nothing shocking in there. I agree with him. When you asked about, I guess the position group competitions, if there's any battles left to be had in fall camp. And I think the offensive line, that guard spot, refilling what Tyler Booker left behind last year, is certainly some big shoes to fill there. But that's going to be an interesting competition to see how that plays out over the course of it. And I think the running game, the question I asked him about the running game, I thought he gave a really good answer on that. But I think that's something that, again, how are Alabama fans going to feel, because you were so used to a certain style of play, even when you had Tua and Bryce Young and Mac Jones and these guys that could sling it, you still had your Najee Harrises of the world, your Damian Harrises, these guys that you're used to seeing run for over 1,000 yards. So I'm very interested to see how all that plays out in the backfield for Alabama as well. But, no, I thought great intel from Mike, and I agree with essentially everything that he said about Alabama.
Abide Roofing, they're going to give you no-cost consultations and estimates. Go to abideroof.com. That's the website, 205-922-7134. Start your roofing journey with a free consultation and estimate. There's no obligation, just a true assessment of what's going on in your roof, whether it's a couple loose shingles that they can easily replace, or how about a full roof like I had to have on my house. Those guys at Abide Roofing got tons of experience, and they're ready to help you today. Built to last, there's no compromises in what Abide Roofing can do for you. Only the best materials that make it onto your roof, guaranteed durability, weather resistance, and lasting value. Abide's crew is highly skilled pros. They've got tons of experience, precision, and pride, delivering top-notch results every single job. I am so pleased with what they did on my roof. Call them today and let them take care of you. 205-922-7134, or just simply go to their website, abideroof.com. Dallas, Texas. Actually, it's California. A little bit of excitement with the Dallas Cowboys. We were talking to our good friend Matt McLaren last week in Atlanta, and he was literally leaving SEC Media Days, touching down in Dallas. Had about a day or two off, then
straight to L.A.
Straight to California.
Yep.
And yesterday, Jerry Jones did not disappoint. Micah Parsons, a lot of people said, hey, Micah, do not show up to camp. Don't do it until you get your contract resolved. But Micah Parsons showed up to camp, and a lot of people nationally said that was a dumb move. Well, yesterday, Jerry Jones was asked about the contract status, not only about Micah Parsons, but just a 30,000-foot view of what they've done in the past with players like Dak Prescott and some others.
Just because we signed him doesn't mean we're going to have him. He was hurt 6 games last year. Seriously. We've signed, I remember signing a player for the highest paid at the position in the league, and he got knocked out 2/3 of the year, Dak Prescott. So there's a lot of things you can think about when you, just as the player does, when you're thinking about committing and guaranteeing money. The other thing I would say is contracts are 4 or 5 years. Okay? There's a lot of water under the bridge if you step out there and do something in the first 2 or 3. You can get hit by a car. Seriously. And so there's a lot to look at over a lot of years that could make a big difference. Have you ever heard of any clubs committing to players and then they didn't pan out after they committed to them? We have.
Jerry Jones, never disappointing.
You could get hit by a car.
I was joking around with Matt last week. I said, man, you're living your life right, because the amount of stuff that you have in Dallas that you can get into on a daily basis, especially with Jerry Jones being so open to
gold mine.
Just open to the media, just tremendous. He kind of went dark there in regards to being hit by a bus and all the injuries. And if I'm not mistaken, he misquoted. I think he was only out 4 games, not 6 games, right?
Talking about Micah Parsons?
Yeah.
I'd have to double-check exactly how many games he missed last year. But, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you want to hear, right, is your owner going up and saying, hey, yeah, even if we give you money or when we do give you money, you get hurt. Well, okay, Jerry, that's not exactly what I had in plans for me either. I'm glad to know that I'm putting my body on the line every single week so that you can continue to profit off of this organization, and then you're going to complain that I got injured doing, essentially working for you. This is typical Jerry Jones. I saw a comment earlier that said, if Jerry Jones was promised a Super Bowl in the next 3 years, but he was never allowed to do another press conference in that same span of time, do you think he would take the Super Bowl? No, he would not.
No.
Because he loves talking and he loves hearing himself talk, and he doesn't understand that. Maybe he does understand, and he's just, he's lost his fastball a little bit, but I wouldn't probably be taking shots at my quarterback, who, yes, you did pay a lot of money to, and people criticized you for doing that. I didn't think they should have made him the highest paid quarterback in the league, but you did, and he got hurt. And now you have one of the best, I would say, 3 or 4 defensive players in the league, and you're going to complain about him getting hurt and trying to get him to sign a new contract. It just, again, as long as he is in charge, we're going to talk about the Cowboys. He's going to say some funny stuff. It's going to be great content for us. But if you're a Cowboys fan, you've got to be so sick and tired of this. This is not the kind of place, if I'm a player and a free agent looking for my best opportunity, I'm not going to the Dallas Cowboys. No shot. No shot.
No doubt about it. 1-800-239-WJOX, the courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. We've been following these quotes. It's been coming out of ACC football media days. We played you some from Commissioner Phillips earlier this morning, talking about conversations for the CFP. They're ongoing. He believes access to the conference championships, that's paramount to those conference champions being able to go to the CFP. He discussed the potential of playing 9 conference games. He says if the SEC continues to consider that, it's something that the ACC may look at. Also, some coaches, Mario Cristobal, he says that he is in favor of the 5+11 model. He says that makes the most sense to me personally because football is cyclical. It comes and goes in cycles. You don't want to make football a pageant. You win and you're in. Meanwhile, SMU's Rhett Lashlee, listen to this one. He wants a 4-4-4-3-1.
Who would be the 3?
4-4-4-3-1. With Notre Dame having access to one of the ACC spots. He favors Championship Saturday with 1 versus 2, 3 versus 6, and 4 versus 5. So that's interesting because Rhett Lashlee is basically going the route of the Big Ten. Because the Big Ten, they want the play-in Saturday.
Yeah.
They want all of those additional games and the Fox television networks. They want the inventory. He says by going to a 4-4-4-3-1, it brings more teams and fan bases into play.
Yeah, that's not happening. You want to guarantee 4 spots for the ACC and 3 for the Big 12 every year? Not happening. That's not a good idea.
And he also throws some shade at the Southeastern Conference. Take a listen to this quote. He was asked about the perceived strength of the SEC compared to the ACC. This is a direct quote from Rhett Lashlee. The SEC has had the same 6 schools win the championship since 1964. Not a single one has been different since 1964. That's top-heavy to me. That's not depth. End of quote.
Wow, that's a lot. So what would he say to the fact that, let's see, going back now, so we have Clemson, Florida State, Clemson, 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 Florida State, Florida State, Florida State, Clemson. Those are your ACC champions. That would be 2 schools. 2 schools. And you throw in Pitt, they won it in, the COVID year or something like that. But,
But, Conrad, there's only been
break,
6
dude.
SEC schools since 1964. It's the same schools. It's a top-heavy league. There's no depth.
Do some research before you say these things, man. I'm sorry. I get it. He's trying to puff up his own conference. I get it. But, seriously, take 5 minutes, do some research before you sound like an ass.
That is Rhett Lashlee from ACC Football Media Days. We'll go to the bluff city of Memphis, Tennessee, as Brett Norsworthy joins us next here on Three Man Front. Welcome back to the three-man front on Jox. Pat Conrad live on location, Social Taco in Homewood. Great crowd on this hot, steamy Tuesday. Molly back in studio. Landrum back with us on Thursday. Let's go to the bluff city of Memphis, Tennessee. He was our neighbor last week at SEC Football Media Days. Always great to catch up with Brett Norsworthy, the Southern Gentleman. WHBQ Radio, Ole Miss Radio Network joins us on three-man front. Brett, I hope you're staying cool on this wonderful, mild day in the Deep South.
It is a steamer everywhere today, but I'm staying cool. Great to be with y'all, and it was great to see you guys last week. And I say it all the time, y'all present yourself so very well to the best college football audience in the country, and that college football audience, fortunate to have y'all. I see it, I know it, I know how hard you work, and y'all came through and delivered for your great audience last week, and you do it every day.
Well, we certainly appreciate that, Brett, very much. Likewise, I was bragging on you earlier this morning, just the yeoman's work in which you're there for WHBQ Radio, and you're there before Conrad would go on the air at 6 a.m., and you were there you were there long after we had already departed. So you put in a long day's work there in Atlanta as well.
That's the only way to do it. I got a lot out of last week. I really enjoyed last week. And not just seeing my good friends like y'all and a lot of other people, but also I think now more than ever, Media Days serves the purpose, especially with the volatility in all these rosters and the changing world of college football. I think Media Days serves a purpose bigger now than ever, and I hate to see it kind of diminished by some, especially by some that I don't remember seeing being there. But I think in anything, whatever it is, you will get more out of something if you put something into it. And y'all, like me and like many others, we put a lot in it. And I do it for my listeners. I do it for my sponsors. And I do it for my own pride. I want to work hard. I think you should. And we got to remember something, too. And all respect to the people that are out there working in this heat today. Guys, we're not re-roofing houses. We're not resurfacing the interstate. And there are many good people that are out there doing that, and we need to constantly remember we're in the playroom. We have dream jobs. And I think a lot of people in sports don't like being in sports, and I think a lot of them don't like sports. They don't want to be in it, and they don't like it. I want to be in it, and I love it.
Brett Norsworthy joins us from WHBQ Radio. We'll get back to SEC Football Media Days because I want to get your take on just the whole conclave that we had last week. But I want to start with the story that was breaking in your neck of the woods yesterday. I mean, you're as connected as anyone in the Deep South, especially there in the bluff city of Memphis. Take us through this process in which Memphis, this is not nothing new for those around college intercollegiate athletics, because Memphis has tried many times to find itself and put itself in a Power 5 or a Power 4 position. So when this story breaks yesterday that Memphis is putting their money where their mouth has been and offering between $200 and $250 million package to the Big 12 to get entry into that conference, just take us to what you know, what you found out, and how close was this in regard to them maybe getting an opportunity to go to a Power 4?
Well, I'll work backwards. Sadly, it sounds like it was never even close, that it did not even get to a show of hands on votes. And we know a lot of times in a lot of these votes, until they feel like they have the majority to pass it, so they have a winning vote, that they don't subject the people to that. That's not unusual. In the SEC, everything ends up being stamped with unanimity. But last week, the commissioner of the SEC even told me that 9-7 would move it among the ADs, would move it to 9 games. But it did not even rise to a vote, Pat, and it's a shame because Memphis really did. The old saying, make your best offer your first offer. Well, they really kind of did, but years ago, they made a really good offer with the power of FedEx behind them to be the title and presenting sponsor for the Big 12 championship game, and they passed on that years ago. Think about who FedEx is aligned with in the sports world. Just about everybody that's anybody in sports, but particularly with the PGA Tour and with the NFL, and the Big 12 passed on that passed on, about a $250 million total package. It cost the city of Memphis $260 million to build FedEx Forum in 2003. That's 22 years ago. And now the University of Memphis, with the power of FedEx behind it and others, including AutoZone, including Lowe's, others very involved, including Bill Laurie, one of the Walton benefactors. A lot of people put the best offer out there, and the Big 12 passed on it at a time, Pat and Conrad, when we know around college sports, you got departments watching how much the copying machine's being used, and you can pass on that kind of money. That means they simply didn't want you.
And carrying on with that, Brett, because I do think the dollar amount, at least initially, you see $200 million or somewhere around that, and it's eye-popping. But what really caught my attention is past that, do I have it correct that Memphis essentially offered up, hey, after 5 years in the Big 12, if you don't think we're a good fit, you can kick us right back out of the conference. So not only were they going to offer hundreds of millions of dollars, but they were going to allow the Big 12 to kick them right back out in 5 years if it didn't work out. Am I correct in that?
Conrad, you are. And I think that's a great take by you. I think it was the most brazen, remarkable aspect of the offer of you. We will give you this money, and then if you don't like the color shirt we have on, you can boot us out after 5 years. I said yesterday, and I said it seriously, and I mean it. If I'm Greg Sankey, I call FedEx, I call the University of Memphis, and I tell them, y'all up at $100 million and you're in. $300 million talks right now, and I don't see any indications they would do that. But I think you would have to listen to it. But now for Memphis, unfortunately, they've showed their hand. So now the ACC or anybody else, it's not going to be the Big Ten, the SEC. I know that. But I think you'd have to listen if they called and made that kind of offer. But now the ACC, they know Memphis's hand, and they could tell them we start at 275.
That is Brett Norsworthy, WHBQ in Memphis. Brett, on the fly, would you mind holding so we can continue this conversation on the other side? Are you okay?
Oh, fine. Yeah, I don't mind at all. Yeah, sure.
Absolutely, because I want to get into the SEC. Didn't want the break to cut us short. So Brett Norsworthy, WHBQ in Memphis, he is going to continue this conversation. We'll get his thoughts on the SEC media poll that came out. Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? All that next on Three Man Front. We're back on Three-Man Front on Jox. We will continue our conversation with Brett Norsworthy, WHBQ in Memphis. I want to remind everybody about Alabama Professional Services, APS, alabamaprofessional.com. The number, 205-951-9717. Termite control and extermination, mosquitoes, those common house pests, animal removal and control. Since 1977, Alabama Professional Services, they have helped the homeowners solve even the most challenging insect, pest, and rodent problems. Targeted pest control for those termites, rodents, and more to prevention and protection. APS can help, proudly serving Birmingham, Huntsville, Montgomery, all across the great state of Alabama. Schedule a free estimate today, 205-951-9717. Brett Norsworthy, you hear him during the football season every Thursday here on Three-Man Front. He's on WHBQ weekday afternoons, also on the weekends during the football season for the Ole Miss Radio Network. So, Brett, you've been around just like I have, way too long that we can even remember, but most of the time we do not get this SEC media poll correct in regards to predicting who's going to win the conference. But what was the most shocking team in regards to what you saw Friday when it came out? Was it who was going to win the league, or was there a team that you believe did not get as much respect as it should have?
I just think South Carolina is massively overrated, and I don't know what I missed out on. I know they lost so much off that prolific defense last year, and now everybody's so infatuated by Lenore Sellers. And if I'm an Auburn fan, if I'm Cam Newton, I would be a little bit offended by the constant comparisons of Lenore Sellers to Cam Newton. It's not even close. He threw for 16 touchdowns last year and 7 interceptions. He was pretty good running the ball. What I would compare him to is Jeremy Johnson, not Cam Newton.
That's a great comparison. Not saying
Sorry.
we disagree with you, Brett. That's just a great line.
Oh, yeah, you caught us off guard a little bit with that one, Brett. Okay, so with that, with Ole Miss, so with them being 7th right there behind South Carolina and Florida ahead of them, are you surprised that that's where Ole Miss ended up? Because I had Ole Miss 5th on my ballot, Brett, and a lot of that is if I'm going to bank on any one of these teams or coaches to get to 9-3 this year, I'm absolutely taking Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss over South Carolina, Florida, A&M, and that whole group.
That's really sound calculus, John Radke. Hadn't Lane Kiffin earned that? I know that was a much better support. I know it was a much better supporting cast at Alabama, but think back about his 3 quarterbacks at Alabama, what he did with Blake Sims. I mean, hangs in the coaching of a quarterback lose. Then second year won a national championship with Jake Coker, and I do not want to diminish Jake Coker. He was in there, and he got it done, and he won the Crimson Tide a national title. And then that third year, he didn't even start him opening night against USC, or Coach Saban didn't. I know it was Coach Saban's decision, but Coach Saban didn't even start him opening night in a rout of USC down in Dallas. But then later that year, Jalen Hurts becomes the SEC Player of the Year. Then what he's done with Matt Corral, what he did with Jackson Dart. Why would anybody doubt that he wouldn't do it again with Austin Simmons? I voted Ole Miss 3. I voted Georgia 1, and I voted Alabama 2, and I voted Alabama to win the SEC championship game over Georgia.
That is Brett Norsworthy, WHBQ in Memphis, as we're talking about last week's SEC Football Media Days. So let me ask you about your alma mater. You are a proud University of Arkansas graduate. Was that the final time we see Sam Pittman at SEC Media Days?
I think it probably is, and I know a lot of your listeners right now go, let me get this guy straight. He went to Arkansas, but he loves Alabama, and he works for Ole Miss, and he loves Ole Miss. Yeah, it gets a little complicated, and a lot of my family went to all those places, including my brother. He went his freshman year to Mississippi State, so we got the SEC. He sure did. 1977. First person in our family to go to college. My parents drove him down. It's among many reasons why I would never, ever, ever run down Mississippi State. I want to beat them at the Egg Bowl, but I got a lot of state friends, and I'm going to keep every one of them, and I would never say anything disparaging about them. I'm telling you, my mom and dad, when they drove the first one in our family off to college, they had worked really hard, and they were really proud. So I'll never say anything ugly about state. But I'm afraid it is for Sam Pittman. That schedule is brutal. Look at that 3 weeks, starting week 2, week 3, week 4, when he plays Arkansas State at War Memorial in Little Rock, finally a historic game for Arkansas to finally be playing Arkansas State. They cannot lose that one. If they lost that one and Arkansas State tears the goalpost down in War Memorial, Sam Pittman has to just keep going that day. Then the next week they go to Oxford to play Ole Miss. Well, everything about Ole Miss historically has irritated Razorback fans, most particularly now the fact that they tried to hire Lane Kiffin and they didn't get him, and they ended up having to get Sam Pittman instead, and what Lane has done at Ole Miss. I love my Razorback friends and some of my Razorback friends in the media that want to try to tell me that Hunter Yurachek moved away from Lane. And I just asked him with a straight face. Now, you tell me with a straight face, he passed on hiring Lane Kiffin to hire Sam Pittman. Do you really believe that?
No, that's a great point that you bring up there, Brett. And so carrying on with some of your SEC Media Days takeaways, I do want to go back to, because this kind of flew under the radar with what we were just talking about a second ago with my question about Ole Miss. So let me get this straight. So you have Georgia 1, Alabama 2, Ole Miss 3. So you're not as high on Texas as everyone else seems to be in the Southeastern Conference, Brett. Why is that?
I have Texas 4 in that third game in that 3-week run for Arkansas is in Memphis, against Ryan Silverfield. And I think Ryan Silverfield should be at the top of a list for Hunter Yurachek for a new coach. But I do, Conrad, I have Texas 4. The number of laps around the track for Arch, he's got to get playing time. He will, and he's going to be great. Look, everybody that's expecting the heresy, the unbelievable first dud Manning, it's not going to happen. This ain't Bronny James. This is Arch Manning. He's going to be fine, but he's going to need a little time, and that defense is going to have to carry him. And I think opening day is going to be tough for them on the road at Ohio State, and it's going to be the biggest overreaction day of all time. The winner of that game probably will be ranked number 1 the next week, and that night Clemson and LSU play as well, or that weekend Clemson. No, they play that night, that Saturday. That the winner of that game will probably be number 2. And out of those 3 quarterbacks of the 4 teams that weekend, Arch, Cade Klubnik, or Garrett Nussmeier, one of those 3 will be the early front runner for the Heisman. And if it's Arch in a spectacular day, he'll be at the 3-quarter pole because of the Arch mania that we're going through. But I say this with all due respect, and y'all know me well enough to know how much y'all know how much I regard and truly love the Manning family. 2 people introduced me to college football. It was Archie Manning and Coach Bear Bryant. And I've been fans of anything to do with either of them since that night, October 4th, 1969, in that primetime game on ABC. But we got to remember this about the Mannings. They are the first family of the SEC in football. But among Archie, Peyton, and Eli, there's only one SEC championship among those 3, and that was Peyton in 1997 defeating Auburn at the Georgia Dome.
It's amazing, amazing. Great conversation. Can't wait for Thursdays to kick off because we'll get this opportunity to check in with Brett each and every Thursday on this program. My friend, it was awesome seeing you last week, and you even got to see Conrad's New York Yankees Friday night. Unfortunately for Conrad, they lost to the Braves.
That was the only game they lost. I did see the defensive gem of the year, and I thought that might be the spark for the Braves. And then they lost a tough luck game Saturday and low-scoring game on Sunday, but got a good win last night. I keep waiting for the Braves to hit that 17 out of 21 stretch, but the clock's starting to tick a little bit.
It sure is. 9 days away from the trading deadline. Brett, have a great show this afternoon. I know you guys got plenty to talk about there in the Bluff City. Always a pleasure to talk to you. We will catch up with you very soon.
Thank y'all so much. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. That is Brett Norsworthy joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Yeah, always great to talk with Brett Norsworthy. You can chime in. Some of you chiming in on the Courtesy GMC text line as well. Someone said, meeting Brett Norsworthy is on my bucket list. Always enjoy his interviews. And Brett is – there's a reason we call him the Southern Gentleman, Pat.
No doubt about it. And he was a good neighbor last week.
Oh, he was.
Kept his yard cut.
Absolutely.
Didn't have these wild parties that we had to call the cops on.
He was very nice about, we have that large, very nice Jox banner, and he was, very welcoming of that in his space a little bit. It was great.
Yeah.
Very nice of him.
We're going to go to the Queen City next. Charlotte, North Carolina, ACC Football Media Days. Mike Griffith will join the program next. If you thought he was on in the first hour, he was busy working this morning. So now he's going to chill out with us in the 1 o'clock hour. That is straight ahead. This is Three Man Front Live from Social Taco. We have entered the fourth quarter here. Three-man front on Jox. Appreciate everybody stopping by and seeing us here at Social Taco on the Taco Terrace. It's just always great and very humbled that people will take time out of their busy schedule and stop by here. Great listeners that we have not had an opportunity to meet until today, so we appreciate that greatly. A lot of talk about the ACC football media days. We're just moments away from the Big Ten media days getting underway in Las Vegas, Nevada. Tony Petitti, he gave an interview late last night to Yahoo Sports in which he kind of telegraphed what he's going to say today at his State of the Conference meeting. He told Yahoo that he is absolutely still in favor of the automatic qualifiers, and unless the other conferences decide to go to a 9-game conference schedule, he is not budging off of his belief of the automatic qualifiers. So I'm sure that we will hear from him in a couple minutes. Tony Petitti will continue to beat that drum.
I did think one thing that was interesting hearing Sankey speak at Media Days last week in Atlanta was, I don't know if you caught this, but when he was asked about the college football playoff stuff, when he talked about it, it was well, if we expand to 16 teams. He made it very clear that, hey, we don't have to expand anything right now. And I think a lot of people forget that. I'll be honest, I forget that sometimes because we all just think it's a foregone conclusion.
Right.
But I thought it was very interesting hearing kind of Tony Petitti say, hey, we're planting our flag. If we don't get what we want, then we're happy with not moving forward with this conversation right now. And I think Greg Sankey reminding people last week, hey, we know 16 teams is probably going to happen, but there's no guarantee that that's the way we're ultimately going to go.
So Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the Atlantic Coast Conference, he kicked off their media days bright and early at 8 o'clock Birmingham time. This is what he had to say in regards to the college football playoff and what is the most important aspect for him moving forward.
I've always believed in rewarding conference champions. And if you're in a really good conference, I think like we have across the P4, and you're also part of the G6, conference championships matter. And that's been consistent in my 5 years, that they should be rewarded. Fairness and access should also be part of the equation. And so we have a really good playoff right now. It's the 5-7 model. I'm open to 5-9 and 5-11. I always look to our championships to try to have as much access as possible. Within reason, it has to make sense. I think 5-7 allows about 9% of those that play college football at the FBS level a chance to get into the playoff. And it goes up about 1.5%. So I think you get to nearly 12% if you go to a 5-11 model. I know that there's questions about selection and selection committee. I have great faith and confidence in those committee members. I've served on the men's basketball selection, women's basketball selection committees. I know how difficult that is. These are honorable, honest individuals with great integrity. I do like that we're reviewing the protocol for selection, and I think that that will help. But I want to stay committed to access and fairness to all of college football, not only the ACC, and protect our AQ. So I look forward to our ongoing conversations, and I understand why other leagues feel differently about positioning of the future format. So we'll look forward to some of those ongoing conversations.
That was ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips earlier this morning talking about the CFP and what's the most important aspect moving forward is those conference championships. Meanwhile, a couple of his coaches in the ACC, they were quoted this morning when asked about what they prefer in regards to the CFP model. Mario Cristobal, this is a direct quote. He says, no automatic qualifiers. The 5-11 model is what makes sense to me personally because football is cyclical. It comes and goes in cycles. You don't want to make football a pageant. You win, you're in. Meanwhile, SMU's Rhett Lashlee says he wants, I've never heard this one before, Conrad, 4 + 4 + 4 + 3 + 1.
Well, the reason you never heard it before, Pat, is because it's a dumb idea.
He says he wants the 4-4-4-3-1 concept. He wants Notre Dame to have access to one of the ACC spots. He favors championship Saturday with a 1 versus 2, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 for spots. Says it brings more teams' fan bases into play. So that is interesting.
Because that's what this is all about, is the fan bases being happy and not the competitive integrity of the game.
Correct. But it's also interesting because the newest member of the Atlantic Coast Conference, he is bucking the trend of what the other members of the ACC is clamoring about. So the SMU, they're the outsiders, and they're sitting there saying, you know what, we want to have automatic qualifiers, which in his mind, though, he believes that one of these, the first two fours are the SEC and Big Ten.
And then the ACC would be the third four.
And then the ACC would be the third four, because then he throw the caveat that he wants Notre Dame to be included in that four. And again, for me, it's a situation where unless Notre Dame signs the paperwork and they become a full-fledged member of a football conference, I'm in favor of not giving them nothing.
I agree.
Zero.
Well, I mean, we saw it this year, right? When they went to the national championship game, they got all of that money to themselves, whereas Ohio State, who won
everybody
the national
else
championship,
has to
split it with every team in their conference.
I mean, this is not 1979. We do not need Notre Dame to direct what direction we go in the college football playoff. Either you want to be a part of the ACC or you don't want to. It's either you know what or get off the pot.
Yep.
I'm tired of this Notre Dame crap. I mean, back in the 80s and early 90s, they were the sacred cows. They never got penalized for nothing. The SEC would get hammered all the time by the NCAA. Meanwhile, Notre Dame would sit in South Bend, not being a part of the conference, and they would get away with murder, and nothing would happen. Zero. And so now you're still giving them the outlet and the power to decide what's going on with the rest of the 135 teams in college football? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. We've given Notre Dame way too much power for way too long. And, I mean, look, if they don't want to join a conference and you want a seat at the table in the playoff, that's great. You can earn an at-large bid like any other team out there in the country. You're never going to get a first-round bye, and that's fine. If you want to have, your benefits of being independent, you can have that. But that's also going to have to come at some sort of a detriment to the college football playoff, because you just can't let them have their cake and eat it too, which they have been able to do for some time now. But, yeah, I mean, definitely bold of Rhett Lashlee to, like you say, go in a different direction than the rest of his constituents there in the ACC. But, I think he's probably, let's be honest, maybe riding a little high off of last year, right? You are on a team that made the college football playoff last year. Granted, you got knocked out in the first round, and we can play the what-if game between the three ACC schools or the three SEC schools and SMU, but, that's last year, and quite frankly, I think we should all be over that by now. But sounds like, somebody that's feeling a little confident after how last season went for him and the Mustangs.
If you missed any of our interviews in the 12 o'clock hour, we had Mike Rodak on from Bama 247 Alabama. He was telling us about the brand-new recruit that has committed to Alabama. It is three-star quarterback via 247. He's a four-star quarterback via Rivals, and that's Caden Kawa. He came off the board today as a quarterback for BYU because he committed to Alabama. Those were the two schools that he was looking at. He took an official visit to Alabama June 20th through the 22nd. He has now committed to Alabama. He is 6'5", big, tall fella, and he's from Orem, Utah. And so he has committed to the University of Alabama, so he will be coming to the capstone. And as Mike Rodak pointed out to us, it's a situation where he said that it was more of a depth piece to the quarterback room, more than anything else. Auburn coming off a big announcement yesterday as four-star linebacker Jaquez Wilkes. He committed to Auburn, the Wadley, Alabama star. That's a big one, 6'4", 220. Auburn went up 10 spots. They went up to 65th in recruiting with their 11th commitment. And according to Jason Caldwell from Auburn Undercover, there are plenty of other 4- and 5-stars that potentially are in the pipeline to announce that Auburn may be their school in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and Wilkes is now the top recruit in the 2026 class for Auburn. He's their first, at least according to 247, their first top 100 overall recruit. And you get the added benefit of he was a finalist, or Alabama was one of his other final teams as well. So you get a win in an in-state recruiting battle over the Crimson Tide. So, yeah, certainly good news for Auburn. And I said it earlier, and this is, again, if you're an Auburn fan, this is what I think gives you a lot of optimism right now. Is this one commitment yesterday, great player, jumped you up 10 spots. So imagine you stack up 3-4 more of those guys here in the next couple of weeks, and all of a sudden maybe we're talking about an Auburn team that's somewhere in the 20s or 30s in the overall recruiting rankings, and it's a much different picture than what we were talking about a few weeks ago with Hugh Freeze being on the golf course too much and everything's all doom and gloom, and you can see how quickly things can turn around. So I'm with you. You said it earlier, and I agree. I think brighter days certainly ahead for Auburn on the recruiting trail, and going to be fun to see how it goes the next few weeks.
It's interesting. Have you seen the brand new SEC Shorts video? Have you seen that?
I have not. What is it? Is it a golf parody?
It's basically 1964. You have a group of football fans. You have an Alabama fan, a Georgia fan, and an Auburn fan. And someone from the future shows up in 1964. And basically they're trying to raise money for an NIL collective. And basically this person from the future is telling these college football fans what you should expect in the future, which is blowing the mind of those three football fans from 1964 about players being paid above the table and just transfer portal and all that kind of stuff, and Alabama dominating Vanderbilt. Those type of things.
Yeah.
But kind of the punchline is that at the very end, it's like they go into the future and they show it appears to be a Hugh Freeze hitting a golf ball off a tee box, and he shanks it, and then he apparently uses time travel to go back in time to get a mulligan to hit it again.
That's funny.
Very, very talented stuff there at SEC Shorts.
Yeah, no, they always do good stuff. That's clever. It's creative.
You need to watch that. It's
Absolutely.
pretty good. All right, so Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, he is speaking to the media as he is kicking off the Las Vegas version of Big Ten Media Days, and he just discussed with the media why a 4-4-2-2-1 model is the best. He says, we want to better connect the regular season and the postseason. We want more conference games to matter in November. Also mentions non-league scheduling. Petitti adds that a model that gives more control to the CFP selection committee will have a difficult time gaining support from the Big Ten. So in other words, the SEC idea of making these changes to the strength of schedule formula and the things that you're looking at from a CFP selection committee, he says that will be a difficult time gaining support from the Big Ten.
That's not surprising to hear from Tony Petitti, who's, he's made it clear that he's planting his flag, and this is where they stand, and that's fine, right? That's what he's doing, what he thinks is in the best interest of his conference, and that's what he gets paid to do. So tell me this, Pat, and this, if you think this is the dumbest idea you've ever heard, please tell me, and I'm sure our listeners will text in and tell me. What if you had all of the power conferences, everyone plays 8 conference games, and then every year you get one FCS game, so that takes you to 9, and then you play one team from the other 3 power conferences, and so you're playing 11 power games a year, one FCS opponent, and then everybody's playing the same number of conference games. You're getting to mix and match between all the power, all the debate of which conferences is the best. Maybe you can put that at rest a little bit. Do you think that's a horrible idea? Or what do you think about that?
No, I don't. I'm sitting here trying to read through some of this transcript of what else Tony Petitti is saying, Conrad, and he is absolutely throwing the gauntlet down, and he is planting that hill. He is planting that flag on the side of the hill. Listen to this. He just says, this is a shot at Brett Yormark in the Big 12. He says, Big Ten, he says, it is set forth clearly in the CFP agreement that the Big Ten and the SEC control the format of the CFP.
Okay, yeah.
A different interpretation than what the Big 12's Brett Yormark suggested recently. He also goes on to say this, and this is the part that, to me, this makes no sense. He's given interviews to Joel Klatt, and he's now given an interview with
Ross
Dellinger. He says to this open group, I don't think we really care how many conference games each league plays.
That's been your whole thing.
But he's given every indication that that's the reason why the Big Ten will not support.
That's his biggest issue with the playoff discussion.
Yeah, that's just odd. All right, we're going to go to Charlotte. Mike Griffith just texted me, Molly. He said that he is good to go. So we're going to go ahead, run to break, and when we come back, we will go to the Queen City. We will talk to Mike, get his impressions of Jim Phillips and what's going on at ACC Media Days. That's next on 3 Man Front. It is 1:18. Jox, welcome back in. Three-man front. We're live at Social Taco. Let's go to Charlotte, North Carolina. Joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, covering the Atlantic Coast Conference Media Days. He covered SEC Media Days last week in Atlanta. Mike Griffith joins us here on Three-Man Front. Mike, what's the buzz there in the wonderful Queen City?
I'll tell you what, Carson Beck, the former Alabama commitment, as he's known by. I'm just kidding.
Jeepers. You just could not resist, could you?
You know what? What if Carson Beck, in another universe, what if Carson Beck had stayed true to his commitment to Alabama? Where would we be? Would Nick still be coaching? Nick would have another year with Carson right now. The Tide be going for its 5th national title. I don't know. Carson's been through a lot, and I just –
hey, and you know what? If Aaron Murray had not thrown an interception in the back of the end zone of the SEC championship game, Mark Richt might still be coaching Georgia.
Yeah, I was covering Michigan State. Then I'm going to plead the fifth on that. But getting back to my point here. I guess talking with Carson today, it was kind of a microcosm of college football. When you think about the transfer portal, the NIL era, Carson being an SEC quarterback, part of a championship team, losing the championship game. The guy is kind of like I said, he's kind of the poster child of this whole era. When you look at everything he's been through, and now he's weathered it all, and the table seems set for him at Miami. Another storied program trying to return to greatness. Isn't that what everybody's doing? Isn't everybody looking for the answer in the portal? Isn't every program, looking for that second chance or that opportunity? To make the most of a fresh season. All these teams are so, what did Peter Burns say the other day? You don't even know who's on the rosters anymore because so much is cycled. And
yeah,
and that may be a little bit of an exaggeration, but not entirely. Even at Alabama, I got asked the question today. Who do you like in the SEC? And I said, if Alabama's quarterback play is good, I think Reese Davis said this. I'm just repeating Reese Davis, but I think he's right. If Alabama gets really good quarterback play, I'm not so sure they don't win the national championship. They've got everything else. And, listening to Kalen DeBoer last week in Birmingham, I thought his presentation was, confident but not cocky. And, talking to the players, things seem to be pretty lined up. And, we'll see what happens with the starter, the projected starter. But then they got another guy backup that's pretty good and a pretty good freshman, too. If I'm Alabama, I'm sitting pretty good. But right now everybody feels like they've plugged the holes. Everybody feels like they've had a pretty good off season, and it's kind of almost all in our lap after these media days here in Charlotte and out there in Vegas with the Big Ten. And we'll kind of have all the preseason talk out of the way, and just a week or two away from these guys really starting to play some football.
So, Mike, with you being there in Charlotte, just curious, maybe your impressions, because we've gotten some clippings and things, of course, on social media. But of Jim Phillips, as he addressed the media day, he addressed the crowd talking about, and potentially moving to a 9-game conference schedule, the college football playoff. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised that he had praise for a college football playoff committee that put 2 ACC schools in last year. So what were just kind of your takeaways from the ACC commissioners? You got to hear him speak earlier today.
Well, part of the reason the ACC is, wanting the 5-11 is that, they're very optimistic they can get more than 2 teams in, and that's the alternative is the 2 automatic qualifiers. Now, that's not to say they couldn't get more in, but you start right out with, the SEC and the Big Ten getting 4 and, Big 12 and ACC getting 2. And, this is a league that, feels really good about the model they've got, potential revenue sharing model, their ability to make their rich richer. You go into this season, you look at Clemson and you say to yourself, well, man, maybe these guys could win a title. They got 3 or 4 projected first-round picks. And, talking to Mario Cristobal today, and you look at Miami, that team's pretty loaded. If Carson gets some targets on the perimeter, and that's a pretty good football program. You've got to think Florida State's going to be better. We're going to find out about them really early against Alabama, obviously. They can't possibly be as bad as they were last year, you wouldn't think. But and who knows what's going to happen with Bill Belichick at North Carolina. So the ACC's feeling like they got maybe a better hand, I think, than maybe a lot of people on the outside think. Right now they've got some momentum. They've got some programs that can do. And, I think Phillips feels that. He's a representative of his coaches. And, I think his presentation today kind of, provided some of that optimism and confidence that's coming out of this league. So it's a feel-good time, I think, for ACC football. I didn't necessarily anticipate that, but, there's quite a buzz, and there's, really, I think there's as many people here as there was at SEC Media Day. So, I didn't anticipate that either. But there's a lot of electricity and juice behind this conference right now, and I can understand why they don't want a playoff system that has half the amount of automatic qualifiers as the SEC or Big Ten.
Mike Griffith joins us from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Also, Dog Nation covers the Southeastern Conference. He's actually in Charlotte covering ACC Media Days. So I want to read a quote to you from Tony Petitti. Just moments ago at the Big Ten Media Days. I want to get your reaction to what he said. He says, to be clear, any college football playoff format that increases the discretion and role of the CFP selection committee will have a difficult time getting support from the Big Ten, end of quote. So he's referring to the 5-11 format. What's your take on that quote from Tony Petitti?
Well, listen, he's there to champion his model and what's in the best interest of his league. I get it. I mean, this guy, he's not a rookie to, PR or administrative duties. I mean, he was the chief operating officer of Major League Baseball. The issue I've got, guys, and I don't want to sound like the old man shaking my fist at the cloud. This guy ain't a football guy, and he's a money guy. And yes, that model that the Big Ten's pitching would make more money. It would open it up for more teams to be involved later in the season. It would produce more volume of games. But I don't know that we're ready for anything quite that drastic. And, oh, by the way, in college football, we want the best teams to make it. And if the College Football Playoff Selection Committee has been empowered to do these rankings and they do them properly, and I know that's something Greg Sankey talked a lot about, I don't understand, why anybody would have a problem with 5-11 outside of the fact that there is a model out there that would produce more revenue, that would involve more teams. But what is the objective here? Is it to make money? Is it to turn it into the NCAA tournament, basketball tournament like circus? Is that, I just don't think you change the sport for the sake of the money. And because I think if you do that, I think you lose a lot of the quality and a lot of what made college football special. In other words, on the surface it may seem like, just kind of like NASCAR. On the surface it seemed like when NASCAR expanded to California and some of these tracks outside the Southeast, everybody said, oh, we got a great product. If we splash it all over the country, it's just more and more and more. Well, NASCAR lost a lot when it did that. It lost its core following, and it really lost what made it special. And I thought there were lessons to be learned from that, but apparently Tony Petitti wasn't paying attention, and maybe not even some of these television executives. College football is not the NFL, and it doesn't want to be NFL junior. I don't think so. I don't sense that. I mean, and that's me. I've been doing it 30 years, and primarily in the Southeast. Maybe other parts of the country are interested in that, but I don't see other parts of the country showing up 365 a year. Like folks in Alabama or Georgia or maybe Columbus, Ohio, for that matter. I'll give them credit for being a great city, or Lincoln, Nebraska. So I understand on paper why this might look good to a guy like Petitti, but I think in practice, what is the old saying? Don't put too many ingredients in the soup, you spoil the soup. I think that's what's happening with college football right now. Is people are messing with the formula, and it's too much. It's just, to me, it's too much. We're not ready for that giant step yet. So I understand what Petitti's saying. That comment, sure sounded good on a piece of paper. Some PR person signed off on it. But, I really hope we get back to, what college football is all about and what's best for the game, and maybe not what's best for the pocketbooks or the television executives.
Mike Griffith from Dog Nation and the AJC joining us here on Three Man Front, as he does every Tuesday. So, Mike, I know you don't personally vote, but, of course, we did have the SEC media ballot that came out from Media Days last week. Don't think anybody's going to be shocked. Texas projected to win the conference. They're 1, Georgia 2, Bama 3, LSU 4. So when you just look at the totality, 1 through 16, of what the media projected, did anything stand out to you as, wow, you think that team is maybe being very overrated or underrated by the media heading into the fall?
I thought Auburn was too low. Were they picked like 11th or something
11th.
like that?
Yeah,
Yep.
11th.
Yeah, it's too low. To me, that's too low. And again, I've said on record, it wouldn't surprise me if Auburn made it to the playoff, and I wouldn't be shocked if Hugh Freeze was fired by the end of the year. Anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. But just on paper, I think Auburn football is a better program than that. I don't really think they were that far off. I know that if you looked at the results, that may not, you may not agree, but and maybe I'm biased because I covered Auburn, or maybe I just feel like I have an understanding of that place, but I just don't think they're going down that way. I feel like this program is on an upswing. I know you guys were telling me early on in the portal. You guys were the ones that were telling me, hey, take a look at who they're landing. They got some dudes. I think this quarterback's going to fare well. I think Auburn's going to be a tough game for Georgia. I think Auburn is going to show up with some fight this year. I think you've got a coach with his back to the wall. I think you got players with a lot of pride. So Auburn's too low. Tennessee ninth, that's curious. I don't know if I can fight that decision. I got to see their quarterback play. We're going to learn a lot on September 13th when Georgia goes to Knoxville about Georgia and Tennessee. Heck, we might learn a lot about Tennessee when they play Syracuse in the Kickoff Classic in Atlanta. There's a lot of really enticing early season matchups. Texas plays at the Ohio State in their opener. Now, the reason you pick Texas to win the league isn't necessarily because you think they're the best team, but they only play two teams that had a winning conference record in the SEC last year, A&M and Georgia. They've got a layup of a schedule. I mean, it is what it is, guys. They got an easy schedule, and that schedule matters when you're picking the order of finish. Do I think Texas is the best team? No. Do I understand the odds of why they'd be the favorite to win? Yes, because of their schedule. The questions at quarterback at Alabama and Georgia, those are big questions. That quarterback is an important position. It's the on-field CEO of your team. So I can understand a little doubt. And then, LSU fourth, even though they may seem to be the most complete team, there's questions about Brian Kelly. By the way, he's got to open the season at Clemson. So I get why it was picked the way it was. In the end, it doesn't matter. I think we know that. But other than Auburn being low, I guess you're asking me, that was the thing that really stuck out. I mean, I'm sure Hugh Freeze appreciated it, and, they'll have that on the billboard. But there's no way that Auburn, in my opinion, should be picked 11th. Even if it's within the bandwidth of what could potentially happen, usually the truth is somewhere in between. I mean, at the end of the day, Auburn's probably an 8 or a 9-win team, and they're going to knock somebody big off this year. I just feel it. I feel it in my bones. They're going to beat somebody big. It could be Alabama. It could be Georgia. They're going to beat somebody.
That is Mike Griffith from the AJC, DogNation.com, and he joins us every Tuesday here on Three Man Front. Mike, I know it's busy. Appreciate you carving out a couple minutes for us from Charlotte, and we will catch up with you next Tuesday.
Yeah, drinking out of a fire hose, man. Next week I'll figure out what I just said. I appreciate it, guys.
No problem. Safe travels back to Georgia. That is Mike Griffith joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. All of our guests join us on that hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. Wow. What a last hour and a half or so here on Three Man Front. If you missed any of those interviews, you can always download those on the Three Man Front podcast. More Three Man Front live from Social Taco in Homewood when we come back. It is 1:35 on Jox. This is three-man front, and Conrad, some sad news to report coming from the music world.
Yes, unfortunately, Pat, this news coming down, within the last couple of minutes, that Ozzy Osbourne has unfortunately passed away at the age of 76. Of course, the legendary heavy metal guitarist and the frontman for Black Sabbath passes away at the age of 76. He had been diagnosed with Parkinson's and been dealing with health problems going back to 2019 now. So very sad news coming out today about Ozzy Osbourne. And he passes away following a legendary career in rock and roll. He's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice. He won 5 Grammy Awards and, of course, has been a global superstar for many, many decades. So thoughts and prayers with the Osbourne family as Ozzy Osbourne, unfortunately, has passed away at the age of 76.
1-800-239-WJOX, the Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. Great conversation with Mike Griffith. Last hour, Brett Norsworthy was on with a couple of segments talking about Memphis, trying to get into the Big 12. Also his thoughts on the SEC Media Days. Mike Rodak joined us at 12 noon talking about Alabama and the SEC Media Days. I want to tell everybody about Courtesy GMC and Trussville. You can save up to $16,000 off of Sierra, $1,500. Or how about this? Get 0% APR financing, 0% while it lasts. Take $10,000 off the heavy-duty Sierra 2500, or drive off with the new Yukon Denali up to $5,000 off in savings. And every new vehicle there at Courtesy comes with the 7-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. So get the peace of mind of knowing whatever you purchase, it has got the backing of Courtesy GMC. And as always, 9 acres of inventory, pre-owned vehicles, and those brand new 2026s are starting to make their way onto the lot there at Courtesy GMC. Go by and see them off of exit 32, off of I-459 in Trussville. CourtesyBirmingham.com is the website. So Tony Petitti continues to plant that flag on the side of the hill, Conrad. He is going all in. He took a shot at the SEC in regards to those pamphlets that they handed out at the SEC spring meetings.
I'm sure he did.
He says, we just stand by what we do in the Big Ten. The national results have shown that over the last couple of seasons. Basically, he's talking about the 2 back-to-back national championships that Michigan and Ohio State has won, and the SEC has been shut out. Also, Petitti was asked on whether the SEC and the Big Ten can agree on a future playoff model. Direct quote from Petitti: we're obviously not in the same place on these discussions. I think the goal will be to bring people back together. Every time the 2 leagues have come together, good things have happened.
Okay. I'm seeing these, as I'm sure you are, some of these quotes that are coming out, and these are just, he's not holding back today. That's for sure. How about this one, Pat? So someone in the media asked Tony Petitti about Indiana's schedule last year, because that was a big debate we had, right, about Indiana, if they were worthy of being included in the college football playoff. Tony Petitti, when asked about Indiana's schedule, says Indiana played 2 teams last year that played in the national championship the year before.
The year before.
So he is saying that as a metric for the Indiana strength of schedule last year, it's based on the fact that they played 2 teams who were not very good last year, but they played in the national championship game 2 years ago, Pat.
Now, see, if that was an SEC team.
So that bolsters their strength of schedule for last year.
Because that's always Bama haters' biggest argument in regards to what's going on with the college football playoff rankings, that so much emphasis is put on what happened the year before, where it should be a clean slate. And I cannot believe Tony Petitti is going back to the year before about who Indiana played.
Yeah, I like how there's a note in here that says Tony Petitti did not mention that Indiana's non-conference schedule was FIU, Western Illinois, and Charlotte last year.
Yeah, he failed to mention that.
That was not included.
Or the fact that Indiana has now chickened out of a series against the powerhouse of the ACC, the University of Virginia.
I'm glad you brought that up, Pat. So there's 18 teams in the Big Ten, right?
Last count, yes.
So 6 of them, which would be 1/3 of the entire conference, will not play a non-conference power opponent this year.
Oh.
And one of those teams is Indiana.
Yeah. Okay.
So kind of funny how that one works. Here's another quote from Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti. Quote, "If you were 6-3 in the Big Ten, I would argue that's a good record. If you stumble in the non-conference, then I don't know why that would disqualify you from playoff contention." End quote. So essentially he's saying if you just go 6-3 in Big Ten play, but maybe you stub your toe somewhere in non-conference, you go 8-4 overall on the season, you should still be considered for the playoff because you play in the Big Ten.
Why am I continuing to get the feeling that we are at a huge stalemate? and it's funny because all these commissioners talk about how they get into a room and they all sing Kumbaya and they're all, it's great to work together.
Yeah, this really seems that way.
But every single one of them, then they talk out of one side of their mouth and then they go in front of the media and they absolutely just start, obviously, which they get paid by their own conference, that they begin to take shots at the other ones indirectly. So it's just like, let me one-up everybody. Let's just get all these media days over with, and then finally those 4 guys get in a room. Or listen, Tony Petitti and Sankey, they're the ones that have complete control over where this goes in 2026. Let those 2 guys hammer out what's best for college football.
Well, and didn't you just share the quote, I guess it might have been in the last segment, about Tony Petitti and the what was it with I just lost it, whatever it was. It was something, the fact that he really doesn't care how many conference games the conferences play.
Yeah.
So you're planting your flag of if the SEC doesn't budge on the non-conference, I guess he throws the ACC in there too, then we're not even opening this up for discussion. But then, moments later with another media member, you're saying it doesn't really matter.
So
it makes no sense. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, so if he's putting the pressure on the ACC and the SEC to go to, good to see you. If you go to the 9 conference games, does that mean that Petitti and the rest of the group will absolutely just punt the idea of the automatic qualifiers? I mean, is that the sacrifice? Is that the commonplace of negotiation in which that's the middle ground?
So Greg Sankey says they sign off, we're going to 9 conference games, and Tony Petitti goes, great, 5-11, let's sign it, let's go right now.
Because if you're
I find that hard to believe.
If you're Jim Phillips, Jim would be sitting there going, okay, we're at 8 games. Can ESPN give us the same deal that they're giving the SEC in a much smaller number, obviously?
Yes.
But if we go to 9, are you going to give us, the consideration of more money by us playing an extra conference game as you're doing the SEC? Will that make everything okay? So I don't know. But
I think we can all agree it would not make it all okay. Nothing's going to be that simple in today's era.
No. Water can find its way into any crawl space, bringing dangerous mold, mildew, and wood rot. But APS can protect your home's foundation and provide valuable storage space as well. Call APS today, 205-951-9717. Start protecting your home today with APS, established back in 1977 to solve the most challenging issues around your home. Visit their website, alabamaprofessional.com, for all your pest, foundation, and, of course, your crawl space issues. More 3-Man Front. We'll get to your text messages next. This is Jox. This is 3-Man Front. 147. Want to thank everyone here at Social Taco for hosting us each and every Tuesday. Also, the wonderful listeners of Jox for showing up in mass numbers again today. Fire Marshal would not have been happy with the number of people that had been up here. No, I'm just kidding. People of Homewood.
We're all very safe up here, but
Yeah,
it was a
very
great
safe.
crowd and a lot of people, as you mentioned earlier, some new faces that we've never seen up here, which is always a treat.
Very much so. Let's go back to the phones. Chris has been very patient holding. Chris, thanks for your patience. I hope you're doing well on this Tuesday.
I'm fine. Just first, I got to pretty much just, I guess, respond to before I cut out yesterday what Conrad had asked me about my upsets for Mississippi State. Conrad, what was you said? What you said for them? They had to. What was the 4 games they had 4 upsets?
Yeah, hang on. Let me pull up their schedule real quick, Chris, because you said, if I'm not mistaken, one of your bold predictions yesterday was that Mississippi State was going to pull off a big upset this year, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so your options, and just looking at the toughest games that they're going to have.
And give me the home away.
Okay. All right, so we've got we'll go Ole Miss at home, Georgia at home, Texas at home, and Florida on the road.
I'll take Texas at home.
Okay, so
one.
Mississippi State over Texas at home. Okay.
Yes. Because I feel like they're going to be raring to go with all those cowbells like crazy. That's first. Second thing I called about to address, I guess, the elephant in the room, or the closeted elephant in the room, Bama Head on the text line. In the immortal words of Beyonce, man, we all know what you are. He's a low-key closet Bama fan. If you like him already, put a ring on it. You don't got to save face. Last but not least, I'm going to manifest for Molly just like I did last year, since she's so always down enough about a Big Red. I'm once again picking the Big Red Corn Shuckers to win that Big Ten, because I feel like at some point Ohio State and Michigan, their NIL deal is gonna fall on their faces, because that's all they really have to care about isn't actually developing players. Y'all take care.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that very much. The Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. We will wrap up the show, Conrad, with the rapid fire, as many of our text messages that we can get to.
Wait,
And
did
we
he
always
just say that Nebraska was going to win the Big Ten?
Yeah, we were trying to go right over that,
Okay,
Molly.
good. Sorry, I thought I was hallucinating for a second. Okay.
Does that make you feel better about this season, Molly?
No, it does not.
Okay. Just curious there. But we do appreciate everyone chiming in throughout the show on the text line. As Pat said, we're going to get through as many of these as we can. So if you missed the news just a few minutes ago, very sad to report that Ozzy Osbourne has passed away at the age of 76. And Jimmy texted, he says, "Long live Ozzy, Black Sabbath will always be better than Led Zeppelin." So I know a lot of people out there, big Ozzy Osbourne fans and big Black Sabbath fans. We have another text coming in. They say the conference commissioners oftentimes talk like hippies and act like sharks. So not a bad comparison there, honestly. Let's see. Someone else chimes in. They say, Mike Griffith is correct. Out-of-control greed has officially taken over college football. I assume back to his comments about Tony Petitti being a money guy as opposed to a football guy as the commissioner of the Big Ten. Another one chimes in. Says, I hope we stay at 12 teams for the college football playoff. I'll be damned if I'm going to be big boyed by the Big 10, or 20 as they should be called. The SEC will look weak if they fold to the Big Ten's wishes. Let's see. We have a text coming in about Jaquez Wilkes, the 4-star edge rusher out of Wadley High School who committed to Auburn yesterday. Someone chiming in, he says, I'm sure the kid from Wadley is a fine player, but I'm a little concerned about him only playing 1A football at the high school level. Perhaps a fair question there. We did share earlier in the show, if you missed it, winning a state title for Wadley last year. He had, over 300 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns to go along with everything he does on the defensive side of the ball. So I understand maybe not the highest level of competition, but that's an athlete right there. That tells you everything that you need to know, I think. Joseph chiming in about the CFP. Wouldn't it be funny if we just stayed at 12 teams and the SEC got 5 in this year and the Big Ten only got 2, with the 13th, 14th, and 15th all being Big Ten teams, essentially saying the scenario last year that you had with the SEC. I wonder if Tony Pee-Pee Head would get off of his high horse. That is Joseph with the new nickname there for the Big Ten commissioner.
Need that on a T-shirt.
Appreciate that text. Let's see. Someone says, I'm blasting No More Tears as we speak. Rest in peace to the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne. Absolutely. Darren from Tennessee. What team in the Southeastern Conference has the craziest fans?
Wow.
LSU. That's my opinion. That is my opinion. Let's see. Somebody chimes in. Nobody overhypes 1A football recruits like Auburn fans. Wilkes is a nice player. The tape speaks for itself.
I mean, you got to keep in mind that he was being recruited by Alabama, Florida State. Wasn't it Texas A&M?
Texas A&M, Miami.
Yeah.
Yep. No, this is big boy football. I know it's 1A, but this dude can play.
No, he's a talented young man. So it's not like Auburn was the only Power 4 program that wanted his services. I think if he would have announced any of those schools that we mentioned moments ago, I think they would be head over heels happy with him.
I was about to say, I don't think that we'd be getting those texts if he had committed to Alabama over Auburn, but I will leave that for y'all to decide. Ken chimes in. Unless there is total reorganization, college football is going to allow NIL to buy the national championship every year. Texas, Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia, and LSU will be the only SEC schools that are able to compete for a national championship if that's the case. They certainly do have a lot of money. No doubt about that. Someone chiming in about Alabama's offensive line. They said, I think Alabama's O-line will be just fine. As long as we have a QB that can read the defense. How many Lions gave their quarterback that much time last year? Yes, he got sacked, but several of those sacks the last few years were on Milroe. I am not necessarily going to disagree with that sentiment. Let's see. Someone says, I'm not an Auburn fan, but I'm pretty sure Terrell Zachary played at Wadley, and he turned out to be pretty good for Auburn. And we'll wrap up with this one. The craziest fans are hands down Tennessee fans. They're always back. Every year for them is 1998.
We appreciate everybody joining us here at Social Taco. We'll be back in studio tomorrow. Landry will be back with us on Thursday. A little bit of news coming out of New Orleans. The Honey Badger has announced his retirement with the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, wow.
Yep, so he
what
is
a career.
Calling it quits. For Molly, Conrad, I'm Pat. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Try to stay cool out there. We will see you back here at 10 a.m. on Jox.